All right, here we are back again with another New Scott Shoot interview. Back with maritime wrestling legend Wildman Gary Williams. It's been about 7 years since the last one of these did. How have you been?
Good, really good, thanks. How have you been?
Good.
Good. Yeah, 7 years.
Yeah, it was like January 2006,
Wow.
I think.
Wow, time flies, man.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was that long.
Yeah, I didn't either. So I went and watched the last part of the interview to see where I left off, and I'm like, that was the last thing we talked about.
That's back when I was healthy.
Yeah.
In my prime.
Since our last shoot, you closed down your wrestling school. Mm-hmm. Could you tell us some of the experience you had training your students there? What was it like to teach them?
The experience was actually, I didn't really know what to expect because, obviously I'd never done it before, but once I started doing it, everything flowed, everything was good. It was a great experience, but what really caught me by surprise is the first time I had some of my students have their first match, and I'm sitting back there just watching them. It's an overwhelming feeling, and I just really couldn't explain it. It almost felt like I was actually more excited to watch my students' first matches than I was, having my first match. It was crazy, but it was an incredible feeling, and just that alone just really made everything worth it. And of course, getting guys trained properly was definitely one of the main factors that got me doing it, because back then the backyard wrestling stuff was at an all-time high, which you don't hear too much about anymore, thank God.
Yeah.
No offense to backyard wrestlers, but fuck you.
Who do you think was the best student, talent-wise, to come from your school? You had a lot of guys.
Jeff Young. Yeah. No questions asked. Jeff Young. Jeff was a complete natural, obviously. I mean, I asked him probably a dozen times throughout the training. I was like, "Are you sure you never got trained before?" Like, he just got it. It just came natural to him. When I got trained, it came natural to me, and it wasn't that hard to figure out for me to just get it down path. But Jeff was just, I've just never seen anything like it, and he was in my first class that I ever did, so I really didn't know what I thought, okay, well, that's probably what it is. Everybody knows what they just come in here, they know what it takes. But yeah, Jeff by far was the perfect student, really. And anyway, that's another story. Jeff's got his own little story. You should do a shoot interview with him. I mean, that's.
I was talking to him last night.
Yeah,
I think we've got it worked out.
Good.
For those that don't know, Jeff Young wrestled as Tommy Osborne.
Yeah, Tommy Osborne. But and then close second as far as being trained and just getting it. That was a very easy person to train was Tyson. He was.
Alexander Saint.
Yep, Alexander Saint. I mean, he got it. Same thing, he just kind of sucked everything in. He just kind of took it all in, and then when it came time to do it, he just got it. Just very easy to train.
Yeah, he's one guy that I've noticed over the last 3 years probably. He's improved more than anybody leaps and bounds. Like,
really?
If you watch his matches
Good.
from like when I first started taping them in 2009 or 2010 to now, it's just unbelievable the stuff he's improved on.
The last time I would have seen him wrestle would have been I think it was on a Newbury show, which would have been probably a year ago. And even then I was like, wow, the guy's, I mean, he's always been good. Yeah. So I mean, obviously the experience just made him better and better, but he really figured out his own style, and yeah.
He had a match with Sidewalk Sam, who for what Adam has, he's not that bad, but Tyson made him look like $1 million, and that match is on YouTube.
Is Sam still wrestling?
Yeah, he stopped for a while because he hurt his back, but he came back last spring, I think.
Good for him.
And that's when him and Tyson had a match, and it was crazy good for Tyson. Really got a lot out of him.
That's good to hear.
Before you closed your school, Tony Armstrong was doing a lot of the training there. Why did you decide to let him train people out of anyone you had to choose from?
Well, that would have been the time when I moved to Moncton, and I was only there for a year now. Anyway, Tony is one of these guys that he doesn't need to be told what to do, how to do it. As far as wrestling goes, he knows his stuff. And I watched him when he came out to Wildman Academy just to help me out, and, just do training and stuff. And every time he came, I just kind of, took a seat in your favorite chair, or I just sat in the corner.
The one
and
that
watched.
tipped over on everyone else?
Yeah. Because I come in and, I get the guys to warm up, sit-ups, push-ups, standing squats. But Tony would come in there and just, all right, guys, off they go. They'd run around the block. And so, for me, it was a no-brainer. I need somebody to take care of the school, and I know it's going to be done properly. So Tony was hands down my, didn't even have to pick him. He offered, and I was like, it's all yours.
Why did you decide to stop training people and close the school down?
Well, a couple of reasons, really. At the time, I didn't really have it's kind of like a two-part thing, because I closed the school down for a bit, and then I reopened it, and I think I only ran one, or maybe, was it just one class?
I think so.
One class, and then shut her down again. The first time was basically, my day job was an operations manager for a security company, and it was just so demanding time-wise that, even the weekends when I would run my school, I just didn't have time. I'd be there trying to train the kids, and the phone's ringing off the hook, and I just simply didn't have the time to do it. The other main reason was, at the time I felt it was getting a little oversaturated with new talent. There's a lot of kids getting trained, and a lot of kids not able to get matches, right? Which is kind of good, kind of bad, because it really, the best of the students got breaks, and the other ones just kind of faded away, or, got better. So, it all worked out good. But yeah, those two reasons, basically. Just oversaturation of new wrestlers, and just no time to do it.
Your thoughts on Tommy Osborne and Krista Lynn Scott, two people who at one time had a tremendous amount of passion for wrestling, just up and quitting.
Krista quit? Hey, Krista, we were supposed to go for a coffee. Whatever happened to that? Yeah, I've been out of touch with a lot of these people. Jeff is one of them that, I stay in touch with somewhat. Krista.
She just moved back here.
Yeah. That's when I was reading on Facebook or something, and I saw that she was back down here, so I was like, cool. So I fired off a message. Took me about 2 weeks to get a reply, and but yeah, we'll hook up soon. But no, I had no idea that she.
Yeah, she hasn't wrestled in 2 years or so.
Really? Interesting.
Probably, yeah.
It's too bad. She's good talent. But Jeff obviously, when we were filming the Wrestling Realities, when he did his, his kind of retirement thing, I 100% respected, I respected his decision on doing it, because it was, for him, it was for the right reasons. It wasn't just, it wasn't like a petty thing where it's like, oh, I'm not good, or blah, blah, blah. He wanted to do the MMA stuff and just felt wrestling wasn't for him. So, a lot of people were disappointed. I wasn't disappointed. I was disappointed at the fact that the Maritimes had probably the next, biggest indie wrestler that could have gone miles at,
Compared to Bobby Roode by some people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, in that point, yeah, I was disappointed, but not disappointed over him personally. I was 110% behind him, and, when he told me that, I'm like, dude, you got to do what you got to do. It's his decision, and I just respected it. As far as Krista goes, since I just found out now.
Sorry, Krista.
Yeah. I don't know the reason, so I can't really comment on it. I'm sure she's got her reasons, and like I said, I'm a kind of guy that I've been through enough shit that, you make decisions for certain reasons, and, if they're right, great, you did the right thing, but if, in the long run you realize that, they'll come back, simple as that.
Did you think, first training them and first meeting them, that they would with the amount of passion they had, that they would ever quit, that they wouldn't stop until they made it?
No, not really, because I mean, the whole Jeff thing caught me off by surprise. Krista more so, yeah.
Sure.
Kind of surprised me because she had tons of passion. You know, she wasn't as easy to train as like Tyson and Jeff at the beginning, but she by no means was she hard. You know what I mean? She caught on, you know, and once you get the groove going in the training, you know, it was all downhill from there. She was just doing great, and her first matches were, you know, were incredible, really. But her passion, like especially when she first came to the school, you know, she'd bring her parents to meet me and stuff, and she was just so passionate, you know. I mean, so yeah, it's kind of surprising, but you know, everybody has their reasons, I guess.
Thoughts on a few of your other students? You've mentioned Tyson already, but Sexton Phoenix, Troy Merrick, and Chris Cook.
Yep. Sexton Phoenix, I mean, man, he's out of everybody I've trained, he's the one guy that I became friends with. You know what I mean? Like, he's not just a student, he's a good friend, you know what I'm saying? I don't think I really have that relationship with any other of my students, to the point where, you know, you're actually like, you know, tight and friend. I mean, I'm tight with everybody, all my students, of course, but there's just a bond there with Sexton and myself, and you know, basically I just do everything I can to help him out, which I would for anybody, but yeah, it's just a different relationship with him and I. You know, we really, you know, I think we got a lot in common as far as the music and, you know, just wrestling and all the other stuff, but he was a little harder to train, but he's one of those guys, which was surprising, because I mean, you've seen me training, and I'm not the kind of guy to yell at you if you fuck up, right? I'm not gonna say do that fucking thing. You know, I just patience. That's my girlfriend Erica tells me all the time. You have the patience of a god. You know? It's like, you have all these patience. I don't know, but I'm just one of these guys. You know, it's you know, if you don't get it right the first time, do it again. If you don't get it right the 105th time, well, do it again. You know, if that doesn't work, well, let's wait till tomorrow. We'll do it again then. You know, sleep on it. But yeah, Troy. I mean, at first he had some difficulties, and he was the first student that I ever lost it on. Just lost my mind, because again, it was that bond that was created almost right at the get-go. When I saw him, I saw a lot of me in him. And when he was having trouble with taking like hip tosses and stuff like that, I was like, you know, that's simple. And so I think I just took it more personal, because I really wanted him to, you know, to do it, because I knew he had what it took, and he obviously had the passion and the want to. So, but it took him a little bit. But I yelled at him one day. I forget what I said, but it was the first time. I even shocked myself afterwards. I'm like, man, what the hell did I do? But he's one of those guys that that's what it took. It took me to just yell at him, and you know, to fucking get it right. And after that, you know, he improved 100%. So.
And Chris Cook.
Chris Cook is you know, I mean, he gives me credit for training. I mean, which is fantastic. He was, I guess they were doing a lot of the backyard stuff, and, you know, but Chris came in. There's a few of them that came in. It was Chris and a couple other guys.
He credits you and Tony for training him.
Yeah, because Chris was around, of course, when Tony was doing a lot of the training too. But Chris was one of these guys, you know, I feel like I didn't even have to really train him that much, you know, everything, you know, okay, well, first time he comes in, do a bump. Okay, well, he knew how to do that. Hit the ropes. Okay, well, he knows how to do that. Like, he kind of knew how to do everything. So I just kind of stepped in and kind of said, okay, well, you could do this a little bit better. Let's try this way. You know, like, it was more like a polishing and, you know, just a little bit of extra training that he needed. So, I mean, I'm grateful to take credit for Chris, because I mean, he's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy is. I mean, he's another one. I mean, because I didn't train him right from scratch, I never mentioned his name at the beginning, but with Jeff and Tyson. But man, he's at his size,
He's a
the guy's
big kid.
like 6'3", 6'4",
Yeah.
and he's like 300 some pounds, and he moves around in there like he's 5'5", you know. So, I mean, the guy's incredibly talented, and I think still incredibly young.
He's like 23 or
Yeah,
24.
I'm the only one getting old. I don't know how that works.
Yeah. Who was your hardest student to train? If you had to pick one.
I've worked hard on trying to forget those people. Well, the last class, first thing that comes to mind is the freshest in my mind. The last class that I did, which was about 2 years ago, I guess, 3 years ago, I don't know. There was a few guys in there that usually you had like 1 or 2 people in a class. You know, I usually, on average, I had five, six students at a time. Usually had 1 or 2, maybe 3 that, you know, would kind of fall behind. But this group that I had here, I don't know who it was, and that was Keith Morrison. It was Storm. Who was God? I can't even remember. I'll ask your fish over there. They can probably remember. We had Storm. We had Keith. Help me out here, you Scott. You know everything.
I wasn't there. That was probably the only class I didn't see.
Yeah, exactly.
I have every other class on film except.
But anyway, sorry if whoever I'm forgetting. You guys know me, so my brain doesn't work. But it seems like these guys had a harder time. It just so happened that I think, you know, they were all slow learners, which, you know, it's not a bad thing. I mean, you know, everybody can't be good at everything, you know. And but yeah, it just seemed like that whole group, you know, it was just a hard time to train it, because usually 3-4 months, and you know, you're good to go, right? You're trained, and 3-4 months, I felt like I was maybe a month into it. So it was just a slow process. Now, mind you, I will also take. I'm not going to sit there and blame them all the time, but my head wasn't in it that last training thing I did a couple of years ago. It just I don't know what it was. I mean, I got back into it, and I think my heart wasn't into it. So, Ryan Dodge. He was one of the other guys.
Okay.
How must I forget Ryan fucking Dodge? Sorry, Ryan. But yeah. You know, I mean, they all went their own ways. Like, I mean, Storm, I think, Storm McDonald especially, extremely intelligent man. He's knowledgeable in, you know, a lot of things. We actually have quite a bit in common, him and I. And, I mean, he was, you know, had a hard time getting it in wrestling. But I think, you know, I mean, he can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think his position in wrestling is the behind the scenes. You know, a couple of times he did, didn't really book, but was helping out Chuck with doing, I think it was a tour that Raven was down and stuff. And, you know, he was just helping out, doing stuff, you know, a little bit of creative ideas. And I mean, I thought he was good at that kind of stuff. I think a lot of people didn't respect him for doing that, because the simple fact that, you know, he was kind of new to the business and stuff. But I mean, Vince is hiring soap opera fucking writers, so I mean, you know, I just think Storm McDonald, he gets it. He gets the business. Yes, of course, he needs to be involved more to get more experience. But if there's a position that came for him, like I said, creatively or behind the scenes or whatever, I think that's the spot for him. I mean, same as Keith. I mean, I think he's a great manager.
Yeah.
You know, anything to that, because he's obviously an entertainer. He's got a good look. He's just not good in the ring. Simple, you know. I mean,
I think he does a lot of acting, or tries to do a lot of acting outside, so a manager role would be.
Yeah, I think manager for him is amazing. Like, you know, it's he's great at it. You know, he's a good talker. Yeah, and Ryan Dodge, I think he should probably. How can I say this in a nice way? Oh wait, it's a shoot interview. Ryan's one of these guys. He wants it so bad But I personally think the only thing holding him back is himself. I think he's just fighting too many demons inside his head, like whether it's insecurities or whatnot. But he definitely had the drive until it came to show me your drive. You know what I mean? Like some days he was off. It's just there was something holding him back. Maybe he doesn't even realize what it was, but there was definitely something holding him back. And I've told him many times, his attitude, had to be adjusted and stuff like that, because he just I told him on the CWI tour, he showed up and blah blah. That's a long story, but basically in the back I told him, I said, dude, you are socially retarded, because the shit that comes out of his mouth just doesn't, half the time doesn't make any sense. Like, do you hear what you just said? And you wonder why people hate you, right? So, I've always been, friends with him, associates. I talk to him and stuff, but I think he'll be all right. He just needs to find his niche or whatever. He's got to figure out what's holding him back, what he wants to do, and he'll be all right.
The first big show after the last interview was the third Maritime Cup. What do you remember about that show?
Nothing. Please refresh my mind.
It was the show. The main event was you and Bobby Roode against Duke McIsaac and Trash Canyon in a tag team elimination match for the WR title.
Yeah.
You and Bobby eliminated the entire other team, so then you and Bobby had to wrestle each other for the title.
Who won?
You did.
I did?
You did.
You know what's sad?
Yeah.
I'm not shitting you. I remember the show. I remember wrestling in that elimination tag and stuff. I really couldn't tell you.
It still holds the attendance record at the multi-purpose center facility for wrestling.
Really?
A lot of people will think that UCW, when they bought Brett, beat it, but that was in a different complex.
Venue. Yeah.
So in that particular building, I'm still holding on to that. It was close to 1,000 people.
Nice.
We actually ran out of chairs. The form facility ran out of chairs to
I know Real Action
sit
had
people.
a couple of good ones, but I think they were only around 6
Yeah.
or 700. That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thanks. That was the night that Titus won the Maritime Cup.
Right.
After they had a falling out with all you guys going way back, because in 2005 that whole Matt Henstock thing happened.
Oh, God, yeah.
And then you guys had no dealings with him obviously after that, but then IHW booked a tour with him and the same thing happened, but you guys warned them not to do it because he's going to screw them over, and when they didn't listen, you guys blackballed them at the time. Mm-hmm. So I was the first person to bring them back in with you guys since all that happened.
Okay.
What were your thoughts on Titus winning that tournament? Do you think he deserved it
Absolutely.
at that time?
Absolutely. I mean, Titus is an incredible talent. I mean, he's one of those kids, again, kind of the same background as Chris Cook. Him and Julian and these guys were doing the backyard wrestling thing, and then, did the right thing. They decided to get properly trained, so they did. They went forth, and I mean, both Titus and Julian are just, I think, phenomenal workers. But I definitely feel that Titus, he definitely deserved it.
You became the first wrestling reality champion at that show, pinning former TNA champion Bobby Roode. What do you remember about that match?
I'm still waiting for my paycheck. To be honest with you, I don't even remember the finish.
It was a roll-up.
We did a bunch of
Okay,
he's kind of coming.
You did the fish out of water spot.
You should have showed me this match.
I'll go get it and put it
Yeah,
up.
but I remember doing all that stuff. I'm thinking, oh my God, Bobby! I said I can't do this shit because he was calling the match, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't remember much of it, but now that you say that, because we did the fish out of the water and all that stuff. So
Yeah. During that match, the special guest referee was Buddy Lane. He made a pretty big error in that match. After you hit Duke McIsaac with the wild driver, he just counted to 2 a bunch of times and stopped.
Yeah, that I remember.
Essentially giving Duke an 18 count off the
Yeah.
wild driver. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, at the time, I was, of course you get heated up, you're doing a big show like that and everybody's pumped up and of course you want it to, go flawless, but nothing ever goes perfect. But, I mean, like anything else, whether it's Buddy Lane or whether it's, a referee that's reffing for the first time, I mean, shit's gonna happen, I mean, I obviously don't hold it against them. It was just a screw up. I mean, I'd be a complete hypocrite if I'd sit there and say, "Oh, you don't fucking." Man, I was the king of blowing spots for a few years. I was crowned the champion of that one. But it just happened. It sucked. A few people lost their mind, but it's over and done with. Just water under the bridge.
There was a second show run that summer in which you wrestled Titus for the WR title. What are your thoughts on that match? Do you think Titus was ready at that time
Where
for that
was
main
that
event
match?
slot?
Just,
The Forum. That was this night that at the end of that match, the Cardinal Sinners ran in and hung you over the top
Yes, Sarah
rope
Dunsworth
with a noose.
yeah.
Pete punched out Sarah and
Yeah.
tell us about all that.
I thought that was a great match. I thought it was a great angle, and I think it worked out really well. I mean, people really. I specifically remember like when they did the whole hang thing. I think that was Mike Hughes' idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was. I thought it was great. Like it was believable for one thing, and nowadays to make people believe in wrestling, it's you really got to outdo yourself because people just everybody knows of course that it's it's not real, it's choreographed, blah blah blah. But yeah, I was very happy with that match. Titus did fantastic, and again, whether that's part of the question or not, he definitely deserved to be there. Definitely. I mean, Titus kind of, in my opinion, Titus went from okay, here's a crew of the new guys, the new bloods kind of thing, and then Titus kind of stepped up where he became one of us. Not to sound arrogant or anything, but he just he stepped up with the big boys, and yeah, he's definitely deserving of everything he's got.
A month or so after that, you made your debut with IHW in another match against Titus. How did you get involved with them, and what are your thoughts on how they run their show compared to others you've worked for?
That was 2005, was it? 2006? No, I mean, I got involved with them, I believe, obviously the guys like Titus and Julian and these guys and the Surge and Dave, the guys that ran it and stuff, they all knew me, of course, because they're all wrestling fans and they watch me, wrestling and stuff over the years. But yeah, they just contacted me and, wanted to be part of it. And I was more than happy to be part of it. I mean, first of all, it's in my hometown, right, Moncton. And, it's always good to work for, at the time it was a newer promotion. And yeah, I was all for it. I mean, their shows actually have been, compared to the rest of the Maritime shows as far as a production quality, are impeccable. I mean, they've been better than all the other ones. They've got the big screen, they've always had the ramp and stuff. They always put a lot of effort into, like I said, the production, but when people walk into a venue to go watch a wrestling show, if you walk in, whether it's an arena, bingo hall, whatever it is, you walk in, you see a ring, radio ring just sitting in there with chairs around it. Okay. The show might be dynamite, the show might be a fucking 12 out of 10, but if you can walk into a venue and you walk in, you're like, whoa, nice ring set up, nice barricade, you've got your curtain, your big screen with stuff. All of a sudden, the fans walk in and you've got them already. Like they're already captivated. Like, wow, look at this. They're excited to see the show.
Yeah.
Where there's no setup on the production side, then I think the wrestlers really have to work harder.
Yeah.
They have to go in there and prove that hey, this is going to be a good show. But again, I think I've always thought that having that bigger production When the people walk in, they have to be impressed. Same as a wrestler walking out of a curtain. You know, the wrestler's got to grab that person's attention right away. You can't go in the ring and try to get people's attention. As soon as you break that curtain, people are, whoa, they want to know this guy. Same with the venue and the promote. You got to walk into the venue and be like, wow, this is cool.
Yeah.
Right? The lights and the music. So, but yeah, I think they've done outstanding. I think they've done great.
Yeah, even WWE has done that now with their house shows. They've added the lights and the
Yeah.
lasers and stuff because they're having a hard time selling tickets these
Yeah.
days, and
And
they're
I was
trying to
gonna-
do everything.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
I was going to make a comparison to that where I was going to say it's like going to a house show compared to a TV taping
Yeah.
with WWE. I mean, you walk into a house show, and the last house show I've been to, probably when I was wrestling a couple house shows with WWE, it was, you walk in and it's just a ring. That's all it is, just a ring. No fancy barricades, no big screen, no pyro, no nothing. Just wrestlers come out, they walk the half a mile like the rest of us do. So, but then when you walk into a TV taping again, you just.
Yeah.
But I could see why Vince would definitely put a bit of effort into.
Yeah,
bumping
they've just
up.
started that.
Yeah, I
recently.
mean you have to. You
Yeah.
have to because I know the house shows attendances were.
Yeah. You only had a couple of matches with IHW. How come you never had more?
Excuse me. I'm not sure. I mean, I did a few shows. I was on a one show a year contract, I think, without realizing. It seems like, for the few years I've been wanting to. I'm not sure why that is. I didn't pursue it, to try to get any shows. And, they always had interest as, except for the last, 2-3 years, I guess. I haven't really had much doesn't seem like they've had any interest in having me there. I mean, which is fine. But yeah, it is what it is. I really don't know if there was a reason behind it. But, I did a few shows with them. I got no heat. Everything's good. If they call me again, if I'm physically able to, I'll wrestle again.
At the time, they were booking a lot of your students. What are your thoughts on IHW giving them their first regular bookings, and do you think that was a good place for them to
Oh
go
my God.
learn?
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing with students. Once they're trained, the training, yes, is it's the foundation, but once that's done, you got to get in the ring. That's all there is to it. You got to get in there, get as many matches as you can, and just go, go, go. So for them to give my students the opportunity to get all those matches, that's hats off to them. All the promotions that gave them a chance.
During the spring of 2007, years of hard work finally paid off when Wrestling Reality was picked up by the Fight Network, which now can be seen on dailymotion.com/Cardinal Sinners. What was your first reaction when you heard the news?
And that can also be seen in about 60 countries across the world, and I still don't make a fucking dime off of it.
It's actually, Cardinal Sinners was the #1 rated show in Sweden about a year ago. Wow. Jersey Shore was #2.
Are you fucking kidding me?
No.
Oh,
you guys
my
beat
God.
Snooki.
Oh, that's incredible. Yeah, that's funny. It's a little fact that I had no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, in your face, Snooki.
Well-
Who's that other guy? That fucking tanning fucking guy?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm trying to
I was in LA one time and somebody thought I was a situation.
Yeah, that's what I'm
I had
talking
no
about.
idea who he was. I had to go look him up. I'm like, I don't know if this is an
Situ?
insult or or a compliment.
Situation isn't that's a person? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, we were all excited. The wrestlers in the show, the production team, Greg Hemmings, his whole crew, Hemmings House Pictures. Everybody was so excited about this project, and it seemed like it was taking off. Obviously the first, I guess, taste of this is going to work was when Fight Network picked us up, put them on their programming, and they flew us out there, treated us like the stars that we weren't, but they were phenomenal. I mean, they brought us up there. Everything was, paid. The limos, take us out afterwards. The guy, I forgot his name. Man, I feel bad for forgetting his name, but the guy who picked us up at the airport and stuff. I mean, man, that guy just treat us like gold. Like the whole Fight Network team. They couldn't have been any nicer. They treated us like we were royalty. It was incredible. And so, of course, we were all on a high horse. We were like, man, this is great. This is going to happen. Interviews. We're on TSN Off the Record. We're on all these, these big Canadian. We're actually following Chris Jericho around because he was promoting his book at the time. So every venue we'd go to, like, oh, we got to go to, CTV. We got to go here. It's like, oh, hey, Chris, it's Chris Jericho again promoting his book. We're all must have had the same manager or something. But yeah, it was it was incredible. An incredible feeling. Why? I can't even say why didn't it take off, because in a sense it did. It did really well. The reason why it doesn't air out here anymore, I think, is just the lack of anybody pushing it. Like anything else, if you're not going to put it on TV, nobody's going to see it. But I really think Wrestling Reality, that was my favorite between the two, Wrestling Reality and Cardinal Sinners. The Wrestling Reality series, the original, I think if that was given a chance on whatever TV, Discovery or any other, I think it would have been a big success.
How much were you involved with the promotion of the show, the booking, the creative end? What all did you do on Wrestling Reality?
On the Wrestling Reality, I mean, myself, Peter Smith, Rick Doyle, and Duke McKay, or no, that was the Wrestling with Reality, where Duke was involved. But anyway, myself, Rick Doyle, and Pete really put in a lot of effort. I think we all put in equally as much, except for myself, where I didn't have the finances to put in, because I know Rick and Pete had a little bit of money they could throw in there. But I mean, man, it was really, we became promoters is what happened, because I remember, I forget how it went, but Pete looked at me once and I was going on about, oh, I never want to be a promoter. He goes, well, guess what? You're a fucking promoter right now. You've been for the, I never realized, like, oh yeah, shit, because, we booked the towns, we pretty much did everything, everybody had their own little things to do. There's obviously things, because they were more, Peter and Rick really had the most to do with it, aside from, the Hemmings House Pictures. They were executive producers and stuff where I wasn't. So they had a ton more responsibility than I did. So, but yeah, there was a lot of high stress levels at that time. It was just a lot of work, a lot of fucking work. And I can't even imagine Pete and Rick, because these two, they had more stress and more workload than I did. But I just, I know I booked. I remember booking Sussex for some reason. That was one of the towns I contacted. There was a couple connections I had, so I booked a couple towns. I helped a bit of talent, get on the show, of course. As far as creative goes, I mean, Wrestling Reality, I mean, you watch reality shows today, well, there's nothing real about them. They're mostly staged. Wrestling Reality, the good thing about that one, about that show, was nothing was staged. There was only a couple of things that were staged, but they were just basically a reenactment of something that had already happened. Like, there was no make-believe. It was like, it was just maybe 2 things, 3 things that we kind of said, man, we got to try to put this in. But everything was a shoot. Like, it was just cameras following us 24/7, and boom. I mean, these guys had like 300 plus hours of footage to chop up in 22-minute segments or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, man, like these guys like Andrew McCormick and just all these guys. I don't know how they did it, but that's their job. But yeah, it was a lot of work, but it was very, very rewarding. I mean, I think it was all worth it, and I'd do it all over again.
During the filming of Wrestling Reality, you seemed to have a bit of a breakthrough, realizing how much talent you had, and that you may have wasted it over the years by not giving 100%. What are your thoughts on that now, and where do you think you would have ended up if you gave 100% from the start?
Oh man, that's a good question. I gave it 100% in my earlier years. You know, from '97 when I broke into wrestling, and I would say, you know, that dream, that sparkle was there right up till about 2000. I'd say about 2003, 2004. I mean, even if I can remember, even 2005, there was still, you know, there was still, like, I was still doing this because, you know, I can still go places. So, excuse me, it, it was just, I don't even remember what the fuck the question was. But
Where do you think you would have ended up
Yeah,
if you gave 100%? And what are your thoughts on not?
well, that's hard to say because it didn't happen. I'm a big believer in everything happens for a reason. You know, I mean, we could do another whole interview for about 3 hours about all the could have beens and should have beens, but my career has been, and I'm not going to sit here and grope about it because I'm not bitter about any of it at all. But I've been at the right places at the wrong time so many times in my career, and it was just so many letdowns. And you just, you know, instead of sitting there and, you know, drowning myself in alcohol and pills, you know, just, you got to look at the, you know, you just got to look on the bright side and think, okay, well, and my thing was everything happens for a reason. So, you know, if I would have gave it 100, you know, I did give it 100%, but after 2005, I didn't, obviously, or 2004, whatever it was. No, I didn't give it my 110%, but, you know, if you don't got it in you to do it, you know, it's just not going to happen. So it's kind of a hard question for me to answer, you know, what would have happened, because it didn't.
Your thoughts on how the Fight Network treated you guys after the show had aired? Did you hear anything from them? When did you find out it wasn't going to be picked up for season 2? And did they give you a reason why?
See, at that point, I was kind of out of the loop as far as the business side of things. You know, we took Wrestling Reality as far as my partnership or, you know, my business in it. We did the tour, but after the tour was done, you know, after the whole, you know, being flown up to Toronto, do the whole Fight Network thing like I was just talking about, you know, I just kind of didn't really take a step back, but I mean, my job was done. You know, I'm a character in the show. I'm one of the wrestlers, right? So after we did what we did on the first thing, it's just, I was just one of the wrestlers, so I really didn't hear much about the business side because it wasn't any of my business really, you know, because Pete and Rick, like I said, they were business partners, you know, financially. So I just kind of sat on the boat and rowed away and see what happened.
What was it like being back on the road with guys that you had traveled with in the past, such as Mike Hughes and Peter Smith again? Was it the same as the old Real Action Wrestling days, or was it different?
For the first...
For the Wrestling Reality.
Yeah. Oh, it was great. It was great. I mean, there's not a past wrestling story that are my favorites or my craziest in my mind that doesn't involve myself, Peter Smith, and Mike Hughes. I mean, the three of us, you know, we all started, you know, it's kind of, I started in '97, and Pete started in '98, and Mike started in '99, I believe. Legends Tour?
Yeah.
I think it was the way it went. But, yeah, you know, like, we were kind of we were definitely the last group, I would say that was like the last of the old school. So, I mean, we always had, you know, a good bond, the three of us, and it was great to be back on the road with them. It always is.
Your thoughts on James Mason?
James Mason, wow, he's outstanding, amazing talent. I mean, he was only down here for James Mason was only down here for, I mean, what, a week. And I'll tell you, I learned a lot from him with his different style of wrestling and stuff. I mean, I'd heard Peter talk about him, Peter Smith talk about James Mason this and James Mason that. And I completely understood why. I mean, the guy is just a stand-up guy, and I've never seen anybody so serious about the business, I guess. So like, you know, like kind of like what wrestling used to be years ago, where it was like, you know, the big kayfabe, and you know, but it was nice to see that, to see somebody with that kind of passion, not in a loving wrestling passion, but in that, you know, wrestling, he's just got a hold of it and just grasps it. It's amazing, but he's just an outstanding talent, incredible worker.
What was it like traveling with a group of younger wrestlers that you've never traveled with before? Guys like Sidewinder, Titus, Julian Young, and even some of your students.
Well, if you've watched the Wrestling Reality series, you could see that I was kind of like the babysitter / mother hen in the thing, and I think that kind of came about because, you know, a good majority of the younger talent were my students, so I kind of had that obligation. It's just what I was used to. I was used to teaching them, and I was used to taking care of them. So, as far as the other guys go, you know, it was a younger crew, but I didn't really get too caught up into it. I just, you know, it is what it is. I just kind of, what are you doing over there?
I'm leveling up the camera. the tripod legs move. It tipped when I took the camera off.
But yeah, I mean, you know, traveling with the younger guys wasn't really an issue. You know, if anything, it made for great TV. You know, obviously with the whole Sidewinder fiasco and stuff. I mean, and like I said earlier, you know, my students, it was just kind of second nature for me to just kind of, you know, take care of them, get them under my wing kind of thing. But I mean, I think it was a good mix. Definitely good for the show. Definitely aggravating for Peter Smith. But yeah, I mean, personally, I thought it was great. It's good to kind of have that mix, you know, the older guys, younger guys, and like I said, it makes for a better show.
At some point in between reality shows, Mike, Peter, and Rick went to England. How come you didn't join them?
England for...
They wrestled.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if you meant the
Yeah.
shows. So the shows, like, I didn't know about that. Damn you, Peter Smith, Rick Doyle.
That was Rick's first and only time, I think, over
You know,
there.
it's funny. That's one of the things that I really have no answer why I didn't go to England. Peter had offered, you know, to get me up there. I'd even sent, you know, I didn't physically talk to Brian Dixon, but, you know, basically it was up to me. If I wanted to go, I could go, straight up. And you know what? In my whole wrestling career, that might be one of the things that I regret, is not going to England for the simple fact that, you know, just experience that side of the wrestling lifestyle, you know, just to be in a different country and, you know, just experience the whole thing. Because, I mean, I could sit there for days listening to anybody who's been to England about, you know, the stories about going up there. So, yeah, that's probably the one thing I do regret, is not ever, you know, going to England, because the opportunities and the chances were there. I just didn't do it for whatever reason at the time.
In September 2007, East Coast Pro Wrestling started back up in Cape Breton. Your first match back with them was a tag team match with your students. You teamed with Tommy Osborne against two of your other students, Sexton Phoenix, Troy Merrick, and Jamie Hamilton, Dave Jennings.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on wrestling your students and the match you guys put on?
As far as I remember, the match was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, they did a great job, you know, being, you know, green and stuff, but, and I know for them, it was probably a little intimidating to be in there with me, you know, because they want to, you know, prove themselves, but I think they all did outstanding. You know, Dave wasn't the biggest kid in the block by all many means, but I'll tell you, man, he put his he put his heart out on the line every time. Like, he just gave it his all. But no, all in all, I think it was a great experience. I mean, aside from watching my students' first matches, that would probably be the second, great thing about being a teacher is being able to wrestle with your students, right? Yeah, I'd say it was a great experience.
Were you aware that during that match that Tommy Osborne hurt his neck and went to the hospital after the show?
Yeah, I was aware. I knew he had hurt himself when it happened, but of course, it's wrestling. You always see people and they're like, oh fuck, they're really hurt, but we just kind of suck it up and keep going. I knew it was hurt, and after the match you could tell, and of course Jeff is one of these guys. He's not going to spill his heart out to you. He could have a severed back sitting there just with his torso laying in a pool of blood, and he'd be like, no, everything's cool, man, it's all right. So, yeah, we knew he was hurt, and I forget who went to the hospital. I hope it wasn't me, because if I do, I don't remember. But I'm glad he went and got checked out, just to be on the safe side. But yeah, I was well aware that there was something wrong.
Were you aware at the time that was going to be his last match?
No. I had no idea about him wanting to get out of wrestling until, well, it was when I was trying to get him on Wrestling Reality. When I called him up and said, yeah, I want you to be on the show, blah, 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 and he didn't want to. I'm like, the fuck?
Yeah, I remember those conversations.
Do you mean you don't want to?
Yeah.
Dude, you're starting out in wrestling, you can't get a better, this is a potential, millions of people can fucking see you. So, so anyway, at that point, then he told me, that he was thinking, and I basically convinced him, like, dude, make this your last fucking go at it. Just do it. Make it your last go. And I'm glad I did, because I think, after the series was done, we're all done. Of course, because, he was high in the moment that, he's like, I don't know if I want to quit, I had so much fun. But I'm glad he did it, because it was unlike so many wrestling stories of people that quit or have to get out of the business for whatever reason, it was a good one. He got to have fun. He got to lay it out, tell everybody that he was, and still have fun with it, right? So I think that was a perfect way to get out.
Also, during that show, 3 of your other students wrestled in a tag match against each other. It was Purity Saint and I can't remember there was Crystalline Scott and Scott Savage against
tag.
No, it was Crystalline Scott and Chris Madison against Purity Saint and Scott Savage. And during that match, Chris bit Krista, and
That's when his
teeth went into her forehead accidentally, and she bled
great
like crazy. Yeah.
Man, I still got
What are your
pictures
thoughts
of
on that? Yeah.
You know what? Only wrestling. Only fucking wrestling.
There's a clip on YouTube of her freaking out in the
Yes.
locker room.
Yeah, only in wrestling would everybody think that was fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Any other industry, whether it was acting or another sport, the person would be rushed to the hospital and everybody would be on their fucking, their tip. They're like, oh my God, we're wrestling. I was like, man, that is so good for the business. That is so good for this match. And the fact that she kept going.
Yeah.
mean,
she puked.
That's what I'm saying.
On the floor right outside the ring. As soon as she realized she was bleeding, she turned right in front of my camera and just puked from the ring down to the floor, and then turned around and was like, let's go.
Yeah. I didn't know about the puking part. But it's like when I saw that, and then obviously I knew it wasn't supposed to happen. And she just kept going. She lost so much blood. I've never bled that much in my life.
Yeah.
And there she was, green in the business,
especially for a girl to bleed.
Exactly.
That doesn't happen.
Guys, fuck, who cares, man? Give me a blade, I'll fucking make more blood. They don't care. But that was that a lot of. I've always had tons and tons of respect for Krista, but that was incredible.
You wrestled just a few more times for ECPW. You did their first TV taping, and then you stopped after that. How come you stopped working for Sheldon?
Want some dip? Let's go for it. Oh man. trying to remember the history of the whole ECW thing, ECPW. I know I did.
You did a TV match with Robbie.
Yeah,
I think
that was
I
the
think
last
that
show
was
I
your
did,
last
right?
show.
Yeah, because I remember it was the first time I had met Robbie Hollander, and so anyway, he showed up, and you know, they told me I was working him. I was like, oh, that's cool. Is that the show Santana was on? Or was that before?
That was the show before with Krista bleeding and Jeff hurting his neck.
Was
Val Venus and Pete. Yeah,
was on the one that Robbie was there.
maybe.
Anyway, that's a different story. It's irrelevant.
Billy Gunn came in at one time too. I don't think he was.
No,
on
I
the
know
show.
I wasn't at the show in ECPW with Billy, but anyway. Yeah, I don't really know. Well, I probably know. I just don't remember what exactly happened with ECPW. You probably know, and you're waiting for me to explain the story. I know that. Was it a Mike Hughes thing?
No, I think it was a travel thing. You didn't want to go up for one show.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, because I don't remember having any. Obviously, I don't have any heat with Sheldon, but yeah, that's exactly it. At that point, what year was that? 2007, you said?
The first one was 2007. You stopped in 2008.
Yeah. I think at that point, just to like you said, to go to all the way to North Sydney for one show, yeah, I just just wasn't into it. I think that's really when I start winding down as far as like traveling goes. It was actually definitely the beginning, not the point where I'm like, where I got in 2009. But yeah, it's just a long fucking drive for one show, man.
Yeah.
And 9 times, well, all the time, usually we drive up there, 5.5 hours, do the show, drink fucking beer, and drive another 5.5 hours right after. It's just too much, man, But yeah, it was basically it. If it was a tour, absolutely. 3-4 shows, and it's worth its while.
If Sheldon ever started back up, he stopped running shows 2 years ago now. 3 years ago this summer, I guess.
Quite a while.
Would you consider going back to work for him for the one show, or would it have to be a tour?
No, it would have to be a tour. But the thing is, too, that comes into another whole story, which I'm sure you probably have questions for later. But yeah, right now, I'm just, for me, like I said, to drive all that way, it's not going to happen, unless I get a really good payoff. But I don't know. We'd have to talk, but I really don't think so.
ECPW, when they started back up, they started bringing in former WWE and, at the time, current TNA superstars. Do you think does that help or hurt the product for the younger guys on the card?
It all depends how you use it, how to use the guys. If you bring in talent, ex-WWE talent, and they're going over on your top guys, you're killing your promotion, you're burying your guys. So if you're bringing in the guys like Billy Gunn, and I mention him because we became kind of friends, and I've got so much respect for Billy Gunn because he's one of those guys. When he's booked for a promotion, whatever promotion, he shows up and he's there to do his job. There's no ego, there's no bullshit. It's just, okay, if somebody tells him that he's got a job to this fucking little kid, he'll fucking do it. And it's kind of like myself. I got the attitude, I don't care if I win or lose. I'm confident enough in my ability that if I lose the match, I'll look just as good when I'm walking back to the dressing room as if I won the match. It's just a confidence thing. But yeah, you just have to know how to use the talent. Because if you bring, like I said, if you bring these guys in and they just beat your talent 1, 2, 3, what's the point?
Yeah. I never realized how big Billy Gunn was.
Oh my God!
He went until he stood face to face with Pete.
When I realized,
Pete's the largest person in the world, right? And then
Exactly.
they're looking. I'm like, holy crap!
Obviously, when I was doing TV for WWE 2001, when I got to work him. Oh my Christ! I'd never met him before.
Yeah.
And so when I went to introduce myself, I walked in. I'm like, holy fuck. Like,
Yeah.
and
he was always standing next to Triple H back then on TV. And Triple H is massive, so you never put it out of perspective.
Yeah, because I mean, you know, before I met Billy Gunn, you'd see him on TV, and he looked like a tall, athletic-looking kind of guy. You know, I didn't think he was so big. I didn't think he was so tall. I knew he was tall, like 6'2", 6'3".
Yeah.
Then you see him, he's like fucking 6'5".
Yeah.
And the fucking guy, and I mean, watching myself wrestling him on TV, oh my God, I may as well have been Sky Low Low. Like, I just, you know, I'm 6 feet, 235 pounds at the time, and I just look like a little kid next to him.
Yeah.
Like, the guy's in phenomenal shape.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a little off topic, but I told Billy on the last the last tour that I did with him, I was like, Kip, I said, you've never been out of shape a fucking day in your whole career. I mean, you know, because I followed his career pretty closely. He was always one of my, you know, definitely in my top 10 favorite wrestlers. And man, like, the guy's just extreme athlete. He's just incredible. Lots of respect to him.
Do you think it's necessary to use a WWE or a TNA name to draw well?
No, it's definitely not necessary. I mean, it's obviously a choice that the promoter makes, or the money guys, or whoever. But I mean, if you're a good promoter and you have a good booker that are creating storylines, good storylines, that people keep coming back, I mean, you know, if your talent is good enough to pull those stories off and, you know, be good in the ring, you don't need the talent. But is it a help? Absolutely. I mean, I think it's a perfect help for, I mean, if I was to run a promotion, which I never will unless I win millions of dollars, but if I was to run a promotion, you know, I would start, obviously you're a brand new promotion, and what do you got to offer? You got a bunch of local guys, maybe three-quarters of the guys you never heard of. So you want to get somebody in to get, you know, to get a crowd so you can get the marks in. So, I mean, of course it's good to bring in, you know, an ex-WWE guy or whoever, but obviously it's financially demanding as well. So, you know, but no, you don't need them, but it certainly helps.
Do you think it's better or worse to use more than one name at a time? Or do you think it's necessary to use?
It's certainly not necessary.
Yeah.
But again, it all depends on what your budget is. You know, if the promoter's got the money to do it, hell, do it. You know, I mean, I'll use CWI for instance. I mean, my fuck.
They had everybody.
Well, I mean, I can pretty much say that I was wrestling with WWF 1998, 97.
Yeah.
Like, the whole fucking roster was there. Hulk Hogan, Mick Foley included. I'm like, what the fuck? Anyway, I mean, you know, to have more than one, again, it's pretty much the same answer as before. If you can afford it, great. Does it help? Yeah, of course it's going to help. But, yeah.
There wasn't a lot going on wrestling-wise for you around that time. What did you do in your free time in between shows back then?
What time is it? 2007?
2008.
Yeah, 2008. That's when I kind of took a little hiatus there. I was kind of caught up in work. I was doing the managerial bullshit, the security and stuff. So I just didn't really have much time, and there was nothing really going on.
Yeah.
It was a really, really dry spell for wrestling around here, and I just kind of opted. I mean, that's one of the times that if I would have been, you know, not working a career at the time, it would have been a good time to go to England. You know, I think probably Mike and Pete and these guys probably did that. But yeah, I didn't do anything as far as wrestling goes.
I think that's when they went.
Yeah. I think maybe the time Rick went up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just worked my job. You know, that kept me busy about 23 and a half hours out of 24, which fucking sucked. But anyway, I got out of that. That's why I can have a smile on my face again. Yeah, I mean, I just didn't really do much of anything. Just, you know, worked, and that was it.
And it happened again. Wrestling Reality, this time named Cardinal Sinners, got picked up by Rush HD. Your thoughts on when you heard that news?
I mean, it was cool, you know, because I mean, it had happened before, right? You know, been there, done that kind of thing. Not so much jaded. I try not to really get bitter or be jaded by any happenings in the business because, I mean, I've just seen too many horror stories. But, you know, I was like, well, okay, cool. You know, it was a great experience doing wrestling reality. The only thing that was kind of holding me back was because I hadn't wrestled in over a year.
Yeah, that was the next question. You were hesitant to go back on the road at first. Is that
Absolutely.
why?
Well, I mean, for one thing was because I didn't really have much time to do it. But I worked that out, and I was completely out of shape, you know, probably almost as bad as I am now. But yeah, I was just completely out of shape, and you know, for all I knew, I knew I wasn't done with the business. I never had in my mind that, hey, I'm done. There's just nothing happening, and I didn't put forth the effort to make something happen. So I just, you know, just kind of, you know, and I think at the time just needed a break. So, you know, but yeah, that's why I was hesitant to do the whole Cardinal Sinners, because I was out of shape. You know, fuck, Peter yelled at me when I was fucking doing wrestling reality. I was in fucking fantastic shape. You know? I'm thinking, man, Pete's gonna fucking have me for breakfast. But no, you know, he says, you know, I explained to Pete why, and he says, dude, we're doing a reality show. This is the real lives of what we do. This, you know, is a story. This is what happened. I was like, yeah. So whatever, I said, yeah, let's do it. I mean, I was totally in. Like I said, wrestling reality was so much fun that, you know, if they were to call me now and say, oh, we're doing a third season, do it. You know, because it's just, it's fun. It's memories that you can never, ever take away from me. Well, I think Alzheimer's can probably do that.
Not only you, but Trash Canyon didn't want to go back on the road either.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on that?
You know what? As much as reality shows are almost like pro wrestling, it's pretty much exposed that they're not real. And even to this day, I mean, Rick and I are pretty tight. You know, we're really close friends. And I think a lot of it was Rick being bitter from wrestling reality. I mean, I know it was, you know. And, you know, Rick's a business guy. Rick is not into wrestling to just have fun on a weekend. Rick is in there to make money. Yes, he you know, he loves it, loved it. I'm not sure where he stands right now with it, because with the whole MMA stuff, but
He's got a fight coming up.
yes, he does.
Yeah.
I'll go check that out for sure. But I think Rick, you know, was just bitter, but I think a lot of it was played up for TV. And again, you know, in comparison to the reality shows that are out there now, you know, it's not like we did any fault. It was great for
Yeah.
TV, but again, I'd say 75% of it was real, what was going through his mind, and about 25% of it was, okay, Rick's probably thinking, okay, this is how I feel, I'm bitter, but I'm really going to push this to the fucking limits, and, you know, I'm just going to be an asshole. I think a lot of us in that series, actually, including myself, were bitter from the first season. And I think Cardinal Sinners were kind of a way to relieve our stress from that first one. Because, I mean, you know, I wasn't myself on there. I was just, that was a weird time, weird period of my life, to be honest with you. Yeah, really fucked up time in my life, really. So I think that it definitely came across on Cardinal Sinners. And I think, it again, it made for a good story.
Thoughts on the fallout between Peter Smith and Rick Doyle during that series?
Wow, that was a lot of fucking yelling. And I know I brought this up a million times, but reality shows being not real, that whole fallout was 100% real. What you see on TV, unless fucking Rick and Pete were in a fucking private meeting somewhere and talked this, that was shoot. Like I know when Peter's pissed off.
Yeah.
I fucking
too.
I mean, it's not hard to tell because he's always pissed off. But no, I mean, I'm great friends with Peter and I'm great friends with Rick, and I know these guys to the level of this ain't no fucking work, man. This is a shoot. Like, these guys are fuck, and you could feel the tension. You knew it was going on. Yes, it was on Rick's behalf. It was built up a little bit, but I'll tell you, it's. I'm shocked that it never came to blows, and the only reason it didn't is because as much as Rick and Pete will always deny that they're too much alike, hence the reason why they clash a lot. Whether they like each other at the time or hate each other, they have a lot of respect for each other. So, that's the only reason it never came to blows, just for the fact that they respect each other, even if they hate each other at the time. There's still that respect level. So,
Your thoughts on the Cardinal Sinners tour compared to the Wrestling Reality tour and the final products of both shows?
For me, in my opinion, two different things. Two like almost night and day. You got Wrestling Reality. I was the big baby face. I was I was almost like the hero. You know what I mean? Like, I went in there, I was in great shape. Really, I was almost in the shape of my life, thanks to Peter Smith. But yeah, I mean that. I have great memories of Wrestling Reality. Great memories of Cardinal Sinners as well, but just as far as the final product, it was good. I always kept saying there was just not enough Wildman in Cardinal Sinners. But like I said, it was a bad part of my. It was a bad time. Bad part of my life at that point. It was just things were just not going, and at that point, I definitely was bitter about a lot of things, and it comes across on the show, obviously. But Wrestling Reality by far was my favorite. But the two I find don't even compare.
Yeah.
There was a lot of positive in Wrestling Reality, but there was a lot of negative in Cardinal Sinners from everybody. There always seemed to be a fight brewing up, an argument going on in the Cardinal Sinners, where Wrestling Reality was just Peter yelling at the young kids, right?
Yeah.
So, but again, see that's the tricky thing is when you're talking about a TV show, a reality show, it's drama. It's good for TV. So, I mean, the end result, in my opinion, like I said, I like Wrestling Reality better, but Cardinal Sinners was a fantastic series as well.
I actually like that one more than
Cardinal Sinners?
Yeah, I don't know what it was.
And I think
it was more of a show, more of a TV type show than Wrestling Reality.
True.
I think. I don't.
No, yeah, the content. Yeah, it was. Even though there wasn't a lot of wrestling in Wrestling Reality,
no,
not a whole lot. There was even less. I think it was just more.
It's just you guys.
Yeah, exactly. And it's too bad that it was at that time in my life that I did that, because there could have been. But the thing is, you know what? There's no regrets. It is what it is, and it showed in our characters. Where we stood, where we were, how we felt, and but yeah, it was a great series.
Thoughts on when it didn't get picked up for a third season?
Well, I mean, at that point, again, like I said earlier, it was been there, done that. I never set my bar too high as far as expectations. Even with the Wrestling Reality thing, like, as much as that, wow, it's, you can almost taste the success or the whatever you want to call it, because it was, I still always put up a wall, a little bit of defense, because I learned a long time ago, especially with wrestling, early when I started, that I never put my hopes up for anything, nothing, and because when it does fall, or if it does fall, it's not a negative attitude, it's just a defense mechanism for myself. Because, I mean, there's obviously letdowns in wrestling, there's letdowns in life in general. So I've learned to just kind of don't get too excited over anything until it's happening, you know what I mean? So, with Cardinal Sinners, I just went, did the show, didn't expect much out of it. So when nothing got picked up or for a third season, I was like, it wasn't any shock or any surprise to me, that we didn't do a third one, because you can't keep doing these TV shows without any revenue coming back. Too many people, especially Peter Smith and Greg Hemmings and Rick Doyle, as far as my knowledge goes. I mean, you know, they got a bit of return, of course, but they put in a lot of money. I'm sure in comparison to the money they put in, the money they got back, you know, if they broke even, they're lucky. Right? So.
Wrestling Reality brought in James Mason. Cardinal Sinners brought in Frankie Sloan.
Frankie Sloan.
Thoughts on Frankie?
I think Frankie Sloan, within 5 minutes of meeting him, I was kissing him and he was humping my leg.
Yeah, the kissing bridge.
Yeah, the kissing bridge. You know, the pretty much raping me in the hotel room in my underwear and stuff. You know, man, Frankie, and again, Peter Smith and Mike Hughes and these guys that talked to me about him. Peter especially just went on and on about Frankie Sloan. Frankie Sloan. Man, I got to meet this fucking guy. You know, he's a long hair, right? So I had respect for him just when I saw his pictures. But man, what a fucking character. Frankie, I love you if you're watching this, and I miss you. Mwah. But yeah, I tell you, man, Frankie is one fucking stand-up guy. Incredible. I mean, I'd love to fucking... I would pay to go wrestle in England nowadays just to hang out with him.
Yeah.
I mean, that's Frankie Sloan, man. He's incredible and passionate about the business, just like James Mason. I think all the old school guys like James Mason and you know, Frankie and these guys that've been wrestling in the scene for the last 15, 20 years, they're really, really passionate, like something I've never seen before with wrestling. You know, I think the England vibe for the workers are a lot different than out here. They take it way more seriously than we do. So, but it's really nice to see that passion.
You answered this earlier, but if another season was to get picked up now, would you go back?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, no matter what point of our lives, even if they were to come up to me when I'm 75, which I probably won't live to see 75, you know, it's a story. It doesn't matter, you know, if you're in good shape or bad shape. It's just you're telling the story of what's going on right now. So, I mean, yeah, for third season, absolutely, I would jump on it.
After that, you started to work for UCW, a promotion and promoter. At one time, you said you'd never work for. What changed your mind?
Well, with UCW, it was, it had just started. I believe they formed, what, 2008?
I think so, yeah.
And my first show that I did with them was January 31st, 2009. And you're going to think, holy fuck, Gary, how did you remember that?
Yeah.
How did I remember that? Because I saw it on fucking online somewhere. Or no, it was actually, I was digging up some old posters.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit, that was the first show I did. I didn't wrestle, I just did a run-in. It was a cage match with, I think, Lumberjack and Mike Hughes.
Right.
And I did a run-in. I was like, oh, I was telling my girlfriend Erica, I'm like, oh, look, this is the first show I did. And it said the date on there, so that's the only reason I remember. So don't give me credit for remembering stuff. But yeah, anyway, the story with that was, before I actually worked for Chuck Martin, I quickly assumed that, you know, oh yeah, Chuck Martin, coming from mainstream. I was never a big fan of mainstream. You know, they've done good things. I'm not dissing mainstream at all. But I was just never part of that clique. Never, you know, I did a few shows and stuff, of course. And I just thought it was just an extension of it. I knew that they weren't, you know, collaborative. They weren't together or anything. But I just didn't know what to expect. And I just, you know, and of course this was at the time, it was that crappy time in my life. And I just had no interest in working for them, because I just thought, nah, you know, what the fuck is this? Because I remember Chuck calling me, and I just avoid his calls. We kind of chuckle about that now, but yeah, I just wanted nothing to do with it for whatever reason, you know. And then I think I forget what it was, if I was talking to somebody, or if I looked it up on whatever it was. Then I saw the roster, and I was like, Mike's there. And there's, you know, there's got some good talent there. And I was like, yeah. So anyway, I just decided, you know what, I'm gonna do this. You know, I was at that time, of course, probably feeling better and just wanted to get back into the swing of things. So, well, yeah, 2009, the beginning, that would have been when I'm starting to get my shit together again. So, that's when I gave Chuck, you know, a chance, and I'm glad I did.
Thoughts on the UCW roster compared to others you've worked for or worked with?
Well, I mean, that depends. I mean, Chuck's roster can be fucking amazing.
Outside of the WWE guys.
Okay, so you're talking as like local roster
Yeah.
type thing. I think a lot of the, I mean, in all fairness, when I first walked into the locker room, there was good talent. Then there was people I didn't even know of. I knew there was some like, you know, backyard wrestlers and stuff, but at that point I kind of got over the whole backyard thing. Didn't really, it just wasn't worth my frustrations. But I'll admit that some of the guys, you know, Dave, Dave's one of them, Dynamite Dave. He's one of the guys, talking about Dynamite Dave Floyd, not Dynamite Dave the referee. But yeah, Dave was one of the guys that he was the booker at the time when I first got in UCW. And I'm like, I've been wrestling a lot at that point for 13 years, whatever it was. And I'm like, I've never heard of this fucking guy. So I got this little fucking out-of-shape guy with fucking red spandex telling me what the finish is. Who the fuck is this guy? And, you know, I went and watched this match, and I wasn't impressed. I was like, so I didn't have any respect at all for Dave. And some of the other guys, you know, there were, you know, the guys that like Dylan, you know, little skinny, to me it was just a little skinny kid, you know, jumping around the ring, you know, making wrestling look bad. And I was like, what the fuck, man? Like, why are they using these guys? And, you know, that part of the roster, I was like, man, like, I just didn't get why Chuck was using them. You know, to me, oh, they're just Chuck's friends or whatever, you know. And, but, I mean, the other, you know, the top half of the roster was normally pretty good. But it took a while. I mean, especially Dave. Dave Floyd was one of these guys that...
Dave McDonald, is that?
Yeah, Dave,
Yeah.
Dave, you know who I'm talking about, Dave. Dynamite, he wrestles Dynamite Dave.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys, and I'm not a kind of guy that you have to earn my respect. I always give anybody I meet the benefit of the doubt that, you know, you're cool, whatever, and then from there go on. But he's one of those guys that I had zero respect for, and I was just like, you know, I wouldn't even give him the fucking time of day. Yeah. And but he's one of these guys that earned his respect from me. You know, like, I think it all started because it was about a year that I wrestled with UCW, and I probably never spoke two fucking words to Dave.
Yeah.
Tell me the finish. Yeah. I just made it clear that I wasn't a big fan of him. And people that know me well would be like, that's fucking odd. You know? I can be best friends with this fucking tin of chew, you know? But, yeah, I just, you know, he's a hard fucking working guy. You know, and I know why Chuck kept him around when he was the shits in the ring, because he did get a lot fucking better. He's the one who would go out and fucking nail posters on the fucking poles. He's the one that would, you know, work for hours upon hours trying to help out the promotion for us. I mean, Chuck would be stupid to get rid of him. And all Dave needed is to get in the ring with, you know, guys that knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
I had my first match with Dave. I couldn't believe it, because I'd seen a lot of his match prior to that, and I'm not giving myself credit for anything, but he listens, and if he's in there with somebody who knows what they're doing, he can have a great fucking match. Yeah. You know, and then later on he started working on his gimmick more, but I mean, I've got lots of respect for Dave now. And Dylan, he's you know, because I said stuff earlier about him, you know, that was my first impression. I see this little young kid, and you know me, I was always trashing the fucking skinny guys, right? I finally got over that, I think. And, you know, Dylan's another one, you know, he definitely has fucking a lot of demons that he's fighting in his head. I mean, you know, he hasn't had a glamorous life, let's put it that way. The kid's been through a lot of fucking shit. So, I mean, put in his shoes, I'd probably be the same. Anyway, make a long story short, Dylan's another one. Like, if you put aside his size, he's a fucking great little worker, man. you know, especially if he's put in there with certain guys. I can't say that he has a good match with everybody, but I've had little matches with him and tags and stuff, and I've seen him, like, for example, I even forget who the fuck he wrestled. The show that we had Bret Hart last year, he was the opening match. I think it might have been.
I wasn't there.
Anyway. Well, then we're never going to figure it out. Yeah. But I watched that match, the opening match, and I'll tell you, he tore the fucking house down. It was a fantastic match. And again, that was a point for me where I've always had like a soft spot in my heart for Dylan. Maybe because of the, you know, just a troubled kid growing up, I guess. A lot of bullshit. But, yeah, he really, you know, he proved right there that, wow, this guy can fucking work. If you can just get his ass in the fucking gym.
Yeah.
Stick some fucking needles in him or something.
UCW brings in a lot of former WWE stars. The only difference with them is a lot of fans think UCW does it to cover up the fact that their regular roster isn't that good. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, that's obviously, that's a personal opinion of whoever's saying it. I mean, I can see at times that, you know, the main roster is not strong sometimes. So to bring in, see, in this situation with UCW, I mean, as much as a lot of people wouldn't believe me, Chuck's not a fool. You know, do I agree with everything he does? Not necessarily, but when he's bringing in these guys, he's not solely doing it to cover up the regular roster, but I'm sure it's a part of it. I mean, like I said, Chuck's no fool. He's not going to sit there and say, okay, my main event is J.P. Sims and Wildman Gary Williams for the belt, and then the rest of the card is whatever. You know, you can draw so much with your regular crew, and again, like I was saying earlier, you know, thank God we have Bushwhacker Luke there to kind of be the general and book, 90% of the shows, because he can put on good storylines. And even with the regular crew, I've wrestled for a lot of independent promotions, and I've never really seen an independent promotion run as much as Chuck does in the last couple of years at the same spot.
That's definitely true.
No, he doesn't bring in 500-600 people, but I guarantee you the 200-300 that he draws every fucking month are always there. You know, the odd time we'll have a bad show, 150 people show up. Well, okay, but it's very, very consistent. So, and that of course is with storylines. Bushwhacker and Chuck, putting out stuff. I think Bushwhacker's obviously he's 90% of the storyline. Chuck is not a creative guy. Chuck brings in guys, and will say, okay, you guys are the stars. You guys are the ones that have been doing this. You guys figure out the stories, right? So yeah, I mean, I think it's a personal opinion on whoever the individual is. I mean, I can definitely see people that don't like UCW for whatever reason are going to say that, but I mean, is their base roster strong? Well, it's okay. There are stronger. I'm trying to figure out like the base, the regular talent. But I mean, it is what it is. It's. I think everybody works hard that does the show, and we make the best of it.
This next question was a touchy subject for a lot of people when it happened. There was an incident at Empire Theaters where one of your former students, Norman Ross, Tristan Strife, was wrestling for UCW, and he called a kid in the crowd, called the child in the crowd a retard. What are your thoughts on the fallout from that and the media coverage it got, the mainstream media coverage it got?
Okay, first of all, is that what you just told me? Is that the story that you know and the story that you heard?
That's the story that was in the paper.
Okay, perfect.
All right.
And again, I could go on a rant for a total different thing about the globalists and fucking media bullshit. I could go on for hours about that. I don't pray to God. I pray to Alex Jones and Jesse Ventura.
Jesse's awesome.
Oh, man. I'll tell you, man. He's fucking
I watched a shoot with him there a little while ago.
Yeah, it's crazy. But anyway, what had happened there? I mean, I was there. I didn't see specifically what had happened. I was up in the dressing room. But what had happened is you got Strife wrestling Randy Dodge, like whatever his gimmick was. He wrestles as a mental patient, right? He's in the blue scrubs. He wets his fucking
Eugene type guy.
Yeah, he wets his crotch like he pissed himself. He's acting like a retard. Is it politically incorrect to say retard? Yes. So fuck off, retard. I don't call retards retards, but if I'm going to use the term retard, don't fucking judge me by it, please. Just wanted to get that off my chest. But the thing is, what Strife, during the match, called Randy, the guy who acts like a retard, called him a retard. Somebody coming out of a movie, not a wrestling fan, not somebody who was there to see wrestling or even cared for wrestling, by my assumption, probably hated wrestling and thought, hey, this is perfect, I can get some attention here and just the fucking sport of wrestling. So anyway, she heard that and brought it to the media. That's all it takes. It just takes one cranky person to say, hey, this is what I heard. It's in a public place. It's perfect, So that's what happened, is in the match, there was nothing said to a fan. I've never witnessed any wrestler look at, a challenged person in a wheelchair or whatever the case may be, whether they're mentally, disabled or whatever it is. I've never seen any wrestler tell anybody like that they're retards. I mean, personally, I think that probably the worst fucking thing you could ever do. I certainly wouldn't do it. If I'm a good guy, I'm going to fucking give that guy lots of attention. It's just, for people to turn the story around like that really, really baffles me. Because, of course, it gives wrestling a bad name. It gives everything wrestling's about a bad name. But the story that you heard through the media is complete bullshit. Nobody called a fucking fan a retard. It was a wrestler telling the other wrestler he was a retard. And if somebody doesn't like that, go lock yourself in the fucking closet.
After that incident, a few of the good wrestlers that UCW did have, mainly your students, Tyson, Troy, Krish, as well as Josh and Andre, left the promotion. Why do you think they left, and do you think they did it in a professional manner?
Some did it in a professional manner. Some maybe not so professional. Each and every one of these guys, when this whole thing started, with the whole networking thing or whatever, I understand what was happening, because this is something myself, Pete, and Mike have always talked about. Not per se putting a plan in action, but we're always like, man, you've got all these guys like myself, Peter Smith, Mike Hughes, guys have been wrestling for a long time. We've all made a name for ourselves out here. And we're all good wrestlers, you know what I mean? And the last few years, none of us wrestle on the same fucking card. Pete's wrestling with IHW, I'm wrestling UCW, Mike's doing this. Like, Mike and Pete now are wrestling a lot in the same promotions again, but, at that point, because this would have, when did this start? 2010? 11?
10?
Something like that, yeah.
10, yeah.
So, I think Mike Hughes is definitely the one who put the whole thing in action, which is fine. He was doing what, he thought was good for the business, which is great. But, Mike can't tell me what's best for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, would it have been best for the business, for wrestling, to have Mike, Pete, and myself on the same card? Absolutely. But for me, it comes down to, first, a personal decision, and, of course, morals. And for me, and thirdly, I guess, aside from that more, is a payday. I'm to the point now where I wrestle because I love it. I wrestle, because it's in my blood. But a main factor is to get a paycheck, right? I don't do it for free. So for going back to where I was, each of these guys, like Andre and Sexton, all these guys contacted me right away, because, they're all put in this predicament where we either go work with these guys or we work with those guys. And without any prejudice whatsoever, even guys like Sexton, where I told you earlier that, we're really close, good friends, he called me up and he's just like, man, and I told him all the same thing. I said, listen, everybody's a fucking adult here. You all got to make your own choices. So all you have to do, and I said this to each and every one of them, is sit down and just weigh out your pros and cons. Like what's going to be best for you? Is it going to be best for you to do this? Are you going to get more shows this way? Are you going to get more money? Whatever your priority is. Are you looking for more money? Are you looking for more shows? What is it? Whatever works for you at the time, this is what you got to do. You have to make that choice. I'm not going to tell you not to go here. I'm not going to I'll deal with my own decisions, but that's it. And so each one of these guys made a choice, And for me, I can't speak for them, but I respected 100% their decision. Most of them went to work for them. Some of them came back, some didn't. You have to, in wrestling, pretty much everything in life, but especially wrestling, you really, really have to look out for yourself. Because nobody's going to fucking do it for you. And bottom line is it came down to a personal choice for each individual. And they just had to figure it out by themselves. And I mean, the choice I made was, well, I can go do this. Would I've had more fun? In a sense, yes, to go with Mike, because I would have been wrestling with Pete and Mike, more often. But then I'm looking at it this way. Okay, if I join that network, or whatever you want to call it, every show I do involves traveling. I'm not into traveling too much anymore. Is Mike going to pay me what Chuck pays me? No. So, and for me, where I've got to deal with Chuck, where I pretty much work, if there's a UCW show, I'm on it. Unless we discuss otherwise, whatever. So, I would have took less shows, less money, more traveling. It's a no-brainer for me. Yeah, I mean, this is what I have to do. So I just told the guys the same thing. You figure it out and do what you got to do. But, coming from me, personally, myself, you're not going to get heat over it if you decide to go work with them.
Troy was the UCW champion when he left. Your thoughts on, is that how the champion should leave the promotion, or could he have gone about that a better way? There was a similar situation, I don't know, probably 5 years before that, or 6 years before that, where Lincoln Steen was the MSW champion, and he left the same way, just
is that right?
giving the title back.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's I can't even remember exactly how it went down, but I do remember. Yeah, he just well, really, he left. And then we just had to put the UCW title vacant. So basically, I don't think we worked any angle around it, because I mean, the true story was a good enough angle, right? So we just basically said, he took off, he's gone, and now we're gonna have a fucking vacant. I think we did a tournament or whatever it was, and you just gotta roll with the punches, right? Did what he do, I probably would have done it in a different way, but I'm not sure what Mike was telling him or whatnot, about maybe if you wrestle another show, I don't know. I don't know the story, so I'm not really going to comment on it. But whatever the case is, I would have at least just went in and dropped the title. But Troy did what he had to do. Troy, he's a smart guy. So I mean, he did what he felt he had to do. But I mean, obviously, Chuck and himself patched things up, and it's all good.
You touched on this a second ago, but thoughts on promotions telling people that they can only work for one promotion, their own promotion. Doesn't that hurt everyone? As an indie worker, getting booked more places is only going to make you better, thus making whoever you work for show better.
Absolutely. I think it's...
And has anyone ever tried that with you?
It's been brought up to me, never told to me. I think I've been in the business long enough, and I've got a reputation and respect that nobody would put me in that predicament directly, and nobody has. But I mean, that's what I always told my students is like, you know, you got to go out there now once you're trained and get all the fucking experience you can. And people would be, oh, I don't want to wrestle for mainstream. I said, listen, I was the first one to call Devin Chittick, regardless of our relationship, to get my students matches. Some of them did. These guys have to go out there and get matches wherever the fuck they can. So if there's 20 shows in the Maritimes and you can only do 6 of them, yeah, it's bullshit. It is. Everybody should work together, and this is what intentionally, and again, because I know Mike was the guy who pushed pushed the plan through with the whole networking thing. That was Mike's. That was the goal. Get all the promotions to work together. That's what we've been talking about for years and years. You know, we're all like, man, why can't all the promotions work together? You know, you got UCW and fucking Nova Scotia. You got Mike in the Island. You've got LCW in the Newfoundland. You've got IHW and XWA in St. John. Why can't everybody work together? And you know, you could. We had figured it out once. I think it was on the road. No, I don't know. Anyway, it was around the Wrestling Reality time. Pete and myself and Mike had sat there and we figured it out that you could run 3 weeks out of the month, every month, if everybody would get together. But when you talk about promoters, and I'm not dissing promoters because, I mean, let's face it, as much as most promoters have a love for the wrestling business, they're in it for the money. You have to. You know, you're not going to sit there and blow your hard-earned money on wrestling with no return or go bankrupt for it, right? So I can understand why some promoters were iffy because, okay, if we do this, you know, how's the money thing going to work out? Does everybody get a piece of you know, does LCW make a bit of money off a UCW show and vice versa? It's a good idea. It's the perfect idea if it would work. But everybody, each and every promotion that is running, whether you like them or not, would have to be in on it. The strong ones, anyway. You know, like I'm talking, you know, UCW, even mainstream, LCW, Mike's gimmick, the Red Rock, and IHW. Those especially would have to be all together. Okay, this is how it's going to work. So then you can have, you know, your. But I mean, it's so hard to get everybody on the same page, especially like the promoters and stuff.
Yeah. Because
I think they look at it as, you know, they're going to lose money, or I don't know. I never get on the business or promoting side of things, but it's a beautiful idea. So I've been talking about it for years, but it's a hard one to do. You know, it's almost like well, back in the day, you know, probably 70s and 80s. Talking to Leo Burke, and you know, he'd wrestle. Shit, he said his only days off were days that he was traveling. He could wrestle 315 days a year. That's ridiculous. Because all the promotions, you know, the fucking promoter in New York would call fucking Stu Hart and say, yeah, I got fucking guys here, man. You want to send me a couple of your guys and I'll send you these guys, you know, through NWA, AWA, all these guys. It was all networking, man. You know, Neil Dupree, you know, it was perfect. He ran summers. Like, that's what, all the Grand Prix guys, that's what they did for years and years. They come down here for 5-6 months of the summer and then fuck off to Calgary or wherever they go and do that for all winter and then come back. Or everybody kind of shared talent. I mean, those were I guess the golden days of wrestling, but that was the idea, to kind of try to bring this back and set it in motion. But I think every promotion, because back then the promotions were successful on their own. Whether it was a networking thing or not, they still were successful. You know, we're talking like Stu Hart's Stampede Wrestling and Emile Dupree's Grand Prix Wrestling. These guys, you know, at the end of it all, they made millions of dollars. You know, they did fantastic. That's not the case today. So for a promoter to say, okay, yeah, let's do this, and, you know, I think it's just a fear of, it's basically based, I think, just around money, you know, because I think the promoters want to take their promotion and just kind of baby it now. But I just don't think it'll ever work.
Cowboy Mike Hughes started his own promotion, Red Rock Wrestling, which has been really successful in PEI. Why have you never gone to work for Red Rock Wrestling?
Well, for one thing, I was never asked to go work for Red Rock Wrestling. I guess there was I don't know when it would have really started. I mean, there's been a few differences with Mike and myself, you know, and that's all. You know, shit happens. Water under the bridge. I don't really give a fuck. It's just you know, shit that happened in the past and forgive and forget kind of thing. That's how I feel anyway. But I'm not sure what it is. I think you should do a shoot interview with Mike and ask him the question.
What do you think it is?
I personally think, and again, I don't want to sound arrogant in any type of way, but I feel as though Mike Hughes is intimidated when I'm on a same card as him, for whatever reason. I will tell you to this day, I don't give a fuck. I mean, I don't hate Mike Hughes. You know, Mike Hughes and I still we were like fucking brothers, man. I mean, and I still have a lot of respect for Mike, and I also lost a lot of respect for Mike. But I think that there's something that, whether it's something, you know, I did without knowing, or I don't know what it is, but there's something that Mike has in his head, or something that he's thinking that he does not, I don't think he enjoys. I think he enjoys having me around, because like I said, we get along, we room together. Even, you know, last time I went to Newfoundland, we room together, we have a great time. Right? I mean, Mike and I always do. But I think there's just something, and I would love to know what it is, that just, there's a wall there when it comes to the business. And, you know, Mike has a lot of pull with the local wrestling scene in the Maritimes, you know, obviously Newfoundland, HW, and all that, and that's great, all the power to him. But there's definitely, because I mean, I think, now that I think about it, I haven't done any HW shows pretty much since Mike took charge. And am I holding Mike responsible for that? No. I mean, if you said something to them, well, that's fine. If they're going to listen to them, that's great. But I'm not going to sit here and accuse Mike of doing that, because I don't know the facts. That's just stuff that goes through my head. But there's definitely a reason, which I think only Mike Hughes knows, that we're never on the same shows together, where he has the power to do so. You know, we did a couple of, the last tour I did in Newfoundland, well, not the last tour, but the last shows I did with LCW, which whenever that was, a couple years ago, a year, whatever. I was told after well, here's what happened. I went and did 3 or 4 shows with LCW. Again, Mike Hughes and I fucking rooming together 24/7. The whole time we're there, we're together. On the plane, he's buying me drinks, I'm buying him drinks, whatever. And we do the tour, everything's great. I get back home, I get an email from Clarkie. And it's basically, and mind you, this is the first time, Clarkie's lucky I'm a nice guy. This is the first time that anybody has ever given me an ultimatum in wrestling. And it basically, the gist of the email was, you know, if you want to work with LCW again, you can't be working with Chuck Martin, with UCW.
He doesn't run it anymore either.
What's that?
Clarkie doesn't run it.
Clarkie's out of it.
No,
yeah. Yeah, I saw that. So, but basically, Clarkie sent me the email, and I read that, and I just met Clarkie. I've only known him but I'm like, that's not Clarkie talking. Like, I don't know him. I've only known him for a couple months, but no, he wouldn't do this. You know, he was obviously told to do this, or because he's the promoter or whatever. But after that email, I basically straight up said, well, I've been wrestling for 15 years, nobody's going to start telling me who I can work for, who I can't work for. But in sending this email, basically, I won't be working for you anymore. That's for damn sure. Because Chuck, you know, as much as Chuck kind of has an ultimatum, he's never told me, he's never enforced it. I've worked for other promotions. He didn't like it. But again, there's that respect thing. He knows that anything I do in wrestling is certainly not anything against him. And out of respect, you know, like now, you know, I wouldn't go work for another promotion in Halifax, because that would be pretty much fucking cutting his throat, right? Absolutely. I would never do that. Because he's treated me well, with nothing but respect. Never got fucked over on pay. If anything, lots of time got a lot of fucking bonuses. Takes great care of me. And so for me to get an email like that coming from them, I'm like, you know, so I don't get to work 3 shows every fucking 4 or 5 months. Like, I don't care. You know, it was fun going, you know, like, I've wrestled in every fucking province, territory, mud puddle, and Indian Reserve in Canada. Newfoundland was the only place I'd never been. So I'm like, thanks, Clarkie, but I guess I won't be coming again. You know? But again, no heat with Clarkie whatsoever. I mean, because I knew those words, those thoughts weren't coming from him. Were they coming from Mike Hughes? I would assume. But the only reason I assume that is because I can't even remember who told me. Not that it matters anyway. Mike was telling somebody that on that last tour I did with LCW, that he was going to sit me down and talk to me about this whole network thing that he wanted to do. And I'm like, okay. And I was kind of thrown back by that, because I'm like, I was with the guy for like 4 or 5 days straight, rooming together, on the fucking plane together. Like, there wasn't a second that we weren't together. We even wrestled fucking most of the matches against each other. I'm like, why didn't he bring it up to me? Like, why didn't he tell me about this plan to see, you know, this is the plan I have, you know, we could get together and try to fucking get everybody finally together and do that. But he never talked to me about it. I'm like, what the fuck? So like I said, I can't remember for the life of me who told me that, you know, they were told, or they had heard from Mike or whoever that he was going to talk to me about this whole thing. And he never did. And that's one of these things I'm like, why do I only hear this after the fact when I get back from somebody else? So that's why I assume it's Mike, because I was told that, you know, obviously I knew Mike's the one who put this whole plan in action, so why didn't you just talk to me? Those are questions, Mike Hughes, that I want to know. But yeah, it's just shit like that. You know, it just kind of baffles me. Because like I said, I mean, I think the world of Mike. People can ask me right now who's the best worker in the Maritimes. Mike Hughes, hands down. Hands fucking down. He's got fucking charisma. He's got fucking look. He's got size. And the fucking guy can work. The guy's 6'5" and can fucking work like he's fucking 100 pounds. Like, I mean, it's... But yeah, I mean, you know, there's a loss of respect for Mike, but I still have lots of it. But it's just all over this little petty stuff. And I'm sure it'd just be a matter of Mike and I sitting down and having a conversation about it, you know, and everything would be cool. I mean, but yeah, that's pretty much the whole story and how I feel about it.
Shortly after Mike started up his promotion, he promoted the 4th Maritime Cup. You weren't on that show. I guess we know why now.
And I was just told today that I was the champion at the time. Wasn't I? Oh no, Titus got it.
Titus got it.
I won it the year
You won the
before.
WR title.
On the Maritime Cup.
On the Maritime Cup. You were a big part of the first 3 cups. What were your thoughts of not being involved with the 4th?
You know what? I didn't really think much of it, really. Were you doing the talent?
No. That was all Mike.
Yeah.
Mike did that one.
And see, again, you know, yeah, that's kind of fuzzy in my brain because I never really put much thought into that one. But, I mean, I remember hearing about it, Maritime Cup. I was like, what the fuck, man? I didn't even get a phone call for it. You know, I just kind of...
I remember you asked me about it.
Yeah.
Wasn't me?
Yeah, it was me. It's like, but, you know, again, it didn't affect me at all. I was just a little curious. Like, oh, I was trying to get around, whatever. Like that's just me. Like I'm not one of these. Oh, I gotta be. No, it's yeah, it's just one of those weird things, I guess, that I didn't pay much attention to.
One of your students won the 4th Maritime Cup, Chris Cook.
Mm-hmm.
Your thoughts on him getting that after the first champion was Bobby Roode, the second champion was Kingman, Peter Smith, third was Titus, and Chris Cook joins them?
I think that's just a continuation of passing the torch along to the younger guys. You know, going from Titus and then Chris Cook. I mean, these guys deserve it. These guys are us, myself and Pete and Mike, 10 years ago. It's their time. I'm 40 fucking years old. I'm crippled like I'm fucking 75. My time is up. Like, I want to see the young guy. It's their turn. You know what I mean?
That was my original idea for all of them, was have the main guys on the show, but have the tournament focused on the younger guys to help elevate them. But
exactly.
I got outvoted at first, and of course they listened, and it turned out perfect. But because it established it with Bobby going over to the first one, that it could mean something at some point in time, right?
Yeah.
I didn't get that back then. I just
Yeah.
But I learned, and
Yeah,
it made
that's
sense.
No, and I mean, I'm sure there's certainly no regrets with any of the Maritime Cups.
No.
Fuck, they were awesome.
Yeah, it seems to be the one show that always draws. Doesn't matter where it is. I mean, the first show I ever promoted drew 400 people at the Forum. The second one drew 880 in Kentville. The third one drew almost 1,000 in Halifax, and it's not even like they were close together. They were years apart. It's.
And you know why? You know why they fucking draw?
Why?
Because you've got all the top maritime talent there.
Yeah. Never had a name. Never had a name on.
That's
Bobby.
Yeah.
Bobby was
But
unadvertised.
Bobby is considered a maritime wrestler.
And he wasn't even advertised for the third one.
Yeah.
Pete was supposed to have that spot, but Pete tore his hamstring and his bicep. And I called Bobby on like 3 days' notice, and he was like, "Yep, whatever, I'm in."
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Thank
God."
Yeah. And that's why the Maritime Cup, because I think the Maritime Cup, except for the last one, obviously, I think was the one event, promotion, whatever, that you got to see the best of the best in the Maritime.
Yeah.
In the Maritimes, because you don't see it in any individual promotions anymore. And again, this is all part of that, that network that Mike Hughes was doing, is that, he wanted to put that in action, like have a Maritime Cup all the time, you know what I mean? You get all the guys back, and I'll bring it up now because I've got no regrets, even though I got shafted on a bit of money, is the Real Action Wrestling. Everybody that was involved with Real Action Wrestling 2001, everybody that was in the crowd watching, anybody who experienced Real Action Wrestling in any way, shape, or form, always looks back now and think, fuck, that was good. Like,
would give anything to get it back.
To get that roster back. But that roster was us.
Yeah.
Of course you got Bobby, went up there. You got Kurt and but man, like the talent that was here for Real Action Wrestling, for a bunch of indie guys that just went out there and busted their fucking ass, it was incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody, and I'm sure you can ask Peter, you can ask Mike, you can ask myself, anybody who was involved, if you ask them what was the best fucking time in your wrestling career, probably Bobby Roode as well.
Yeah.
Just because he's in TNA, world champ, he'll fucking tell you. 2001, man, that was the best fucking summer because the wrestling was fucking amazing. The crowds were fucking great. And fuck, did we have fun.
Even in 2002, when nobody got paid, I remember Scott Savage, I asked him, I'm like, would you do it again if you knew you weren't going to get paid? He was like, absolutely. There's nowhere else in the world I'm going to be on a roster for 3 months with this kind of talent and learn. He was like, learning was way more than, the experience I got then was way more than I would have gotten anywhere else getting paid.
Absolutely.
So, and it just made him better.
Yeah, it was just incredible. Like, if that could happen all over again. But yeah, it was, man, 2001 Real Action Wrestling, I talked to Warren Olson.
That was when I started coming around.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still talk to Warren Olson quite a bit. We've kept in touch over the years, and I mean, we're pretty good friends. And I'll tell you, we talk about that all the time.
Yeah, Brian came to a show in Cape Breton one time.
Oh yeah,
and talked about it. Yeah.
I mean, both these guys. I mean, some people because of the they got fucked in pay and stuff. I mean, they didn't personally fucking deliberately do that.
Yeah.
It was a business that went fucking sour. Did they fucking play the cards like they should have? No, but they just wanted to fucking, people say that are still bitter over it, say, oh, they just fucking made us work for free. They knew they weren't going to pay us. No, they didn't. They were just fucking banking on the fucking people showing up, and, shit happens, man.
Yeah.
But even the fucking guys like Scott Savage, everybody got fucked. They would do it again.
Yeah. Sarah Stock. That's where she got her start, and look at her now.
There you go.
Best in the world.
And talk to her, she'd probably be like, yeah, fuck yeah. I haven't talked to Sarah in years, but man, it's good times, man, good times.
Yeah. During the summer of 2010, you had a chance to work with the fantastic wrestler in Charlie Haas. Your thoughts on wrestling him and the matches you had?
It was, oh my God, it was a pleasure working Charlie. I was never a big fan of Charlie Haas as far as like a Mark's perspective, you know what I mean? Like when he was.
I think he was better here than he was when he was on
TV. Oh my
TV.
God! Well, that's kind of what I'm getting at, because I actually had, after he came down with UCW and I had matches with him and I got to know him and got to hang out with him. That's when because I really couldn't remember him. I remember the tag team.
Yeah.
Jindrak, is it Jindrak?
Shelton Benjamin.
Benjamin and
world's greatest tag team.
Right.
They were with Kurt Angle.
I remembered it, but mind you, I haven't watched WWE on a regular basis. I don't watch it at all now, but I mean, shortly after I got into wrestling, I stopped watching wrestling. I just kind of watch it here and there, so I didn't really know. But I had to go back on YouTube and see what Charlie Haas was like. So I would have remembered a guy like him, but he was totally different.
Yeah, he was better.
He was just kind of, the hair was different.
Yeah.
But now you got in there and it's like the intensity.
Yeah.
Like, I was just like, wow. Like, he's so good at what he does and so believable that when I'm in the ring working him, I'm starting to believe in his gimmick. I'm like, this guy's gonna fucking kill, because he's so intense. But that is so good, because even though I'm not that intense as he is in the ring, it makes him and I, we just clicked, and I've got nothing but good things to say about Charlie Haas. I mean, I think he's a phenomenal worker. He's in fantastic shape.
Yeah.
And I think I worked 3 or 4 matches with him, 3 at least, and I'll tell you, there's a lot of learning. 15 years after I started, I've always said you can never master wrestling. You always learn till the day you stop. You just always learn, and boy, did I learn a lot with him. Just his psychology and intensity is just incredible.
I remember I taped a few of the matches when he was here. And you always see the fans stand up to the wrestlers when they come out to the barricade. He was one of the only guys where when he got up in the fans' face, he sat back down. Yeah. Like, nobody gets that. Like, because they know nothing's going to happen, right? Yeah. But they looked at this guy and they're like, maybe something's going to happen.
Yeah, like he even saying that, because that's true. I never really noticed that.
Yeah.
But now that you say that, I mean, thinking about it, like he literally put the real into wrestling again.
Yeah.
But just by being his character that he is when he comes out in the ring. Yeah. It's incredible that, if any professional wrestler can make a fan believe know that it's not real, and make it believe.
I remember seeing him out back and then seeing him break the curtain, and
oh my God.
Couldn't get 2 different people.
Like
he turned that switch, It's like, holy crap.
Yeah. Nothing but good things to say about him.
Yeah. During the fall of 2010, Mainstream Wrestling brought in Canadian legend Bret the Hitman Hart. They were the first promotion in Atlantic Canada to do so. Others would soon follow. Your thought on Bret coming into MSW?
I mean, when I heard about it, I was like, okay, that's cool. You know, Brett's coming down here. He's never been down here for indie promotion and stuff. That's great. At the time, it was just so happened that at the time there was, I forget what it was. It was kind of the only little, we didn't have heat, but there was a misunderstanding, and of course I can't fucking remember.
That was my next question. How come you weren't on that show?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm trying to get at, because at that point, Chuck and I, there was something going on, and I think it was something to do with, like, I didn't get booked on a show. This was before we had like our kind of verbal agreement and stuff. Anyway, there was something going on, and I'd been in touch with Devin to work the show. You know, for one thing, I went to see Brett again. You know, it'd been years since I was up there and got to hang and chat with him. So, you know, just to be there, most just to see Brett would have been great. So I had a couple brief talks with Devin, and you know, he basically didn't say I wasn't. You know, he said he was interested in getting me on the show. You know, said we'll talk, blah blah blah. I said okay, cool, whatever, nothing more than that. And then there was something that I said, like I forget what it was. It was something like, you know, can't wait. I guess it was almost my fault because I assumed that I was on the show, and then Devin come up and said, "Oh, I never said you were booked for the show." Just kind of, you know, stood up to me and said, you know, I'll give him props for that. You know? But yeah, so, you know, he just didn't book me, and I didn't really care. But I was up front with Chuck. I told him straight up. I said, yeah, you know, I was going to work the show, and just kind of told him what happened and stuff, and then yeah, I mean, in the end, I would have not, after what happened with Chuck and I, because we had talked and we had smoothed whatever the hell was going on over. It was over a couple of bookings that I didn't get with UCW, and that's, anyway. So anyway, you know, in the end, I wouldn't have done it anyway, as long as I would have still had that same discussion with Chuck prior to. Because, like I said, we patched things up, Chuck and I. Like I said, it wasn't heat or anything, it was just miscommunication. But anyway, long story short, yeah, I mean, it was good for mainstream to have him down here. It's good for Halifax. Didn't seem to affect our draw that he was here a couple of years prior, when Brett came back with UCW. So I mean, it all worked out good. But you know, I was a little. I wasn't. I've never had a whole lot of respect for Devin. Never really had heat with Devin, just because, I mean, all the stuff about Devin Chittick is all he said, she said, you know, like this guy says stuff about Devin. I haven't really worked for Devin enough to really have an opinion. You know, people, oh, he's fucking shady, he doesn't pay me, he's sleazy, this and that, and he fucked this. You know what? I don't care. I'm not a gossip kind of person. I couldn't fucking care less if fucking Snooki had sex with a German Shepherd or whatever. I just don't care for gossip at all. And, but yeah, it just, you know, I only worked for them like, what, handful of shows.
Yeah, not very many.
Yeah.
There were years before that. I remember you did one at Doolittle's.
Yeah, a couple of Doolittle's, did one in Digby, an outdoor show.
Oh, right, yeah. I remember you got changed in the car and walked. Yeah.
I changed in my uncle's fucking Dodge Shadow.
Yeah.
It was awesome. But yeah, just, you know, I mean, there's no heat with me and Devin. Do I respect him? I respect him for working hard. I mean,
he's been going out.
I was just going to say, people can say what they will.
99.
Peter Smith and I think Peter's the one who actually who said that to me. And I'm like, you're right. That Devin's been the guy that's had the same promotion running the longest here.
14 years.
So I mean, you got to give him something.
Yeah.
You know, for that I give him credit.
Yeah.
You know, I can say what I want. I can hear all the shit I want, but Devin's never fucked me with pay. Whatever he guaranteed me, he paid me. Never promised me anything that I never got for the little shows I did. So if I'm going to believe the shit that I hear from other people, you know, I may as well just be a piece of shit myself. I mean, I'm just big on, you know, I'll make my own opinion of a person. I'm not going to listen to what he says. Somebody come with me. My best friend could tell me, oh yeah, this guy you're going to meet is a fucking piece of shit. Don't fucking talk. Sorry, man. I'll make my own opinion.
Yeah.
You know, it's just the way it is.
Do you think MSW getting Bret Hart in first made it easier for other companies to contact them and convince them to come in?
No.
No.
Bret Hart is Bret Hart, and you know, Bret. That's his life. Wrestling is how he pays his bills. It's what he does. So whether it's Devin Chittick, Vince McMahon, Chuck Martin, or fucking Dixie Carter, I'm sure if she paid the right amount of money, he'd be there. Like it's business, you know. If you're gonna pay me my premium to come down, I'm gonna go work for you.
LCW, Legend City Wrestling, runs in Newfoundland. They just got a new TV deal
Yep.
on NTV. Have you seen the product yet? Would you like to be a part of it?
I saw the very first show, the one they had Kevin Nash and Bret Hart. And it's funny, because I was talking to Jim Thompson, one of the guys that is he's affiliated with him now. I think he does a bit of the booking and stuff. But anyway, I don't know his exact role, but I talk to him quite frequently. I met him on the CWI tour, and he showed me the pilot and was telling me about it and stuff. Oh, fuck, right on. So I watched it, and he wanted to know my feedback, and I said, production is fantastic, looks great TV show, but I said, you just didn't push your talent. It was Bret Hart, Kevin Nash, some dude, there was Dan
Crimson, yeah.
there in the mask, and some other guy. And he says, oh, I know. He said, and I understand, it's not the way I would have done it, but I do understand what they're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, they want to get this thing some attention. And hey, I'm not a promoter, I'm not the most creative person in the world, so I mean, I hope it works for them. But yeah, I mean, I watched the first thing and I thought, man, you know, whatever they're doing, it looks good. You know,
That
I think
question-
now I haven't seen any of their. I want to see a few of them actually, but
They're all on YouTube now.
are they?
Yeah.
So I think they're pushing their talent. As Jim told me, he says, "Oh, we're just doing this for the first, and we're going to start pushing our own talent." I said, right on. So yeah, I mean, I wish all the best for them.
During the summer of 2011, a promoter from Ontario brought in Hulk Hogan and a ton of other WWE stars to tour Newfoundland. How did you get involved with that tour?
That was basically the sole reason I got booked, or at least 95% of it, was Robbie McAllister. He had part in the talent booking, so he didn't book me because Nick had the final say with the booking, the guy who ran the promotion, one of the promotions. So basically, Rob would say, "Okay, Gary, you got to give this guy a call. You know, he's interested. He's seen my stuff. He likes." So it was just a matter of money, talking, you know, what a deal. So, but yeah, Robbie, I got to give credit to Robbie for getting the ball rolling on that. So anyway, just talked to, gave Nick a call, and we went back and forth quite a bit, you know, because my initial price, I mean, we had to negotiate. You know, and in all rightfulness, you know, I've got a price that I think I'm worth, which is fair. But you always got to look, kind of because at first when he threw a price to me, I'm like, whoa, I don't fucking lace my boots for that much. So we met in the middle. You know, I was happy, especially after the fact, because damn, I'm glad I didn't fucking miss that. But yeah, we met in the middle, and you know, he was happy, I was happy in the end, so it was all good. But that's pretty much how I got booked. Just Robbie McAllister pushed for me. You know, gave Nick a call, chatted with him, worked up a deal, and there it was.
Thoughts on being on the road with Hulk Hogan and the rest of that roster? Nasty Boys there too.
Oh God, there was so much former WWE talent or WWF whatever talent there that every time I talk to somebody about it, unless I look at my phone and look at the pictures, I can't even remember all the time. It was like I was telling you earlier. I don't know if this was on tape or prior to, but it was it was like being in WWF in 1997, 1998. It was absolutely incredible. I mean, it was the first time in my 16 years of wrestling that as a wrestler, the mark in me just fucking... I mean, you got to think. I mean, growing up, and I'm sure you're pretty much the same. We're not that much apart in age. How old are you?
I'll be 32 in July.
Okay, so we're under a decade of difference. You know, like, I grew up watching the Nasty Boys. I grew up watching the fucking Steiners. I grew up watching fucking Billy Gunn and Road Dogg. Tatanka, X-Pac. You know, Road Dogg, and like, it was just absolutely incredible. And then in two of the shows, it was Cornerbrook and whatever other one it was in Newfoundland. You know, Hulk Hogan's there.
Yeah.
I mean, you can say what you want about Hulk Hogan. I mean, yes, Hogan's, you know, he's had a great but fucked up life at the same time, especially later years. But say what you want about Hogan. If you're involved in wrestling in any degree, whether you're a fan, whether you fucking tuned in once in 1985, you know who Hulk Hogan is. You say wrestling, first thing that comes to mind to anybody is Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan is wrestling. It's so when I didn't even know, because I had heard he was supposed to be on the shows, but then the deal went through or fell through because the tour dates had changed, so Hogan couldn't make it. Until the day of the show, the first show Hogan did, I had no idea he was even on the card. Because I got all the security guys and stuff waiting at the door, and I told Robbie, I said, what the fuck's going on here? Oh, Hogan's on his way. So I said, Hogan? I thought he wasn't on the shows. Oh, no, he's just doing the two shows. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. You know, Hogan's on the show. But, you know, it was, that tour, I would have to say was the, if my wrestling career ended after that tour, which it pretty much did, but if my days were over after that tour and I knew that I would never step foot in a wrestling ring again, that tour kind of sealed the deal for me personally as, okay, now I've done everything I wanted to do in wrestling. That right there was the, it's not like a close the book, because I'm not done with wrestling, where mentally I'm not, physically I might, but I'm not mentally. But I mean, that was, I mean, I got to be, you know, because yes, I've been in a locker room with Hogan before, way back in WCW, and I was doing shows, a Monday Nitro. But all I saw of Hogan was he was doing an interview with me and Gene Okerlund as I was walking across the hall, and they were over there doing it. That was it. Never got to say hi, nothing. So to be there in that smaller environment where, you know, all the boys that are involved are the boys. Doesn't matter if you're fucking Ric Flair or if you're fucking Dylan Sharp. You're one of the boys. You're there, right? So it's funny how I was in the catering, stuffing my face with brownies. So this was so funny. This is a great story. So I'm sitting there stuffing my face with brownies, and Hogan walks in. All I hear is, "Hey bro, how you doing?" And I'm like, I didn't know who the fuck it was. I turn around, there's Hogan. "Hey brother," I'm like, "I'm full of chocolate." I'm like, "Hold on." So how you doing? He goes, "Terry." I said, "Nice to meet you, Gary." And that was it. It was just like, walked in, "Hey brother, how you doing?" He just put his hand out, and you know. And you know, I've been in the business long enough that, you know, obviously I know how to not be a mark as much as my brain's going, "Holy fuck, it's fucking Hulk Hogan." You know, I was just like, "Hey, what's going on, bro?" But I've never been a starstruck kind of guy anyway. But it was the coolest thing to. I don't know what it is with Hogan. It's like Adam with Edge.
Has the aura around him?
Well, no. What I'm getting at with Edge is like when Edge tag teamed with Hogan. Got to share the ring with Hogan.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have to ask Adam about this, but I would assume that if his career would have ended after that, he would have been okay with it.
Yeah.
Because Hogan is the...
He talks about going to WrestleMania 6 and sitting like 30 rows back and watching Hogan, right?
You know, Hulk Hogan, say what you will about him, man, Hulk Hogan is Hulk Hogan. Like, he is wrestling. And to be sharing something with him, like to be, whether you're wrestling him, whether you're in the same arena, on the same show like I was, or in the case of Adam Copeland, where he was in the ring as a tag team champion with him, you've got this overwhelming feeling of satisfaction of like, I've done it. You know, you really, aside from financially, you can't really do much more. You've been on, you know, I got to wrestle a shitload of my, you know, heroes growing up, and I got to meet pretty much all of them except for the ones that died.
Yeah.
So for me, that tour, that whole, you know, Hulk Hogan thing, and that was it for me, man. That tour really, I guess, put peace at mind when I think about retiring, or when I think about when it's going to end. Doesn't matter. I got to do that. I'm okay with it now. But, you know, then I get to St. John, New Brunswick, and fucking Mick Foley's there. I'm like, and I mean, obviously I was a huge fan of Mick Foley, especially Cactus Jack. That was fucking nuts. But I got to meet him, you know, like I said. I'm trying to think of what I'm forgetting that was on that tour. You know, X-Pac, and just sitting in the dressing room and having beers after the show in the hotel room. And just being a part, for me it was like being a part of my childhood history. Like what I used to, you know, not saying that, I mean, X-Pac's the same age as me, but he broke into business way before I did. Yeah. So I wasn't a kid, but you know, in my late teens, I only started when I was 24 years old. So when I was 18, 19, at the peak of my wrestling fanatics, you know, I was watching these guys on TV, and I was sitting here having a beer, you know, just fucking chilling and wrestling with these guys. You know, I got to wrestle in the ring with X-Pac on that tour. So it's overwhelming, but so fucking satisfying.
Thoughts on the fallout of that tour? The police getting involved because a lot of the stuff was left unpaid for by the promoter in Newfoundland.
I really don't know what the story was. I just don't get involved in that kind of stuff. It's none of my business, for one thing, and as I said earlier, I stay out of the politics and the gossip bullshit of wrestling. From what I did hear, because I mean, you know, obviously I know the two sides of the story, but Nick had got a guy to do the local promoting and stuff, get hotels and all that stuff done, to get it for him. But apparently they were accusing Nick of not paying the hotels, and they were accusing Nick of, you know, not paying a bunch of stuff, venues and stuff like that. I'm like, well, this guy just brought in Hulk Hogan. You know, the finances are there. I mean, I briefly talked to Nick afterwards about the whole thing, and I honestly believe that Nick had, you know, Nick did his part of the deal, and the rest, you know, happened. Where it came from, the hotel, I really don't know. I really don't even feel comfortable talking about it because I don't know the facts. I don't know what actually happened. I know the people from, you know, both parties on either side. So, I mean, I just think it was more of a misunderstanding. And, you know, hopefully, you know, if there was any damage or, you know, financial damage done, which I know there was a little bit to somebody, you know, they're doing okay and they'll get over it kind of thing. But I mean, I don't think it was intentional. I really don't. I think it was just something went wrong, or I don't know. I really shouldn't even comment, but I mean, I don't put blame on Nick for sure, and I certainly don't blame who he was blaming, or who got blamed for it, or who put the I think it was just somewhere along the lines. It was just fuck up, a miscommunication. I don't know.
You're one of probably only a handful of wrestlers that have wrestled in every province and territory. What does that mean to you to have been able to do that?
I mean, it means a lot to me. I mean, obviously, somebody who's achieved making it to WWE or other big promotions or even independent wrestlers. I mean, there's tons of guys out there that have wrestled around the world without ever being with the big, the WWE or TNA or whatever. But I am perfectly. I never really set a goal for myself beginning wrestling. I was just a kid that, loved wrestling, wanted to get into it, got into it. Of course, had the dream of going to WWF and all that stuff. But as I start wrestling, I mean, that's when I did all my growing up. I mean, I just, growing up in Moncton, I was just, regular guy doing regular things, and had dreams just like everybody else, and I managed to fulfill them. But I never made huge goals where it's like, oh, I gotta, I'm like, this is what I want to do. Whether I make it to WWE one day or not, doesn't really matter. Because the second I stepped foot in that ring on, I want to say May 24th, 97, I think it was in Truro, anyway, my first match. As soon as I set foot in that ring, my dream had come true. I got to be a professional wrestler. So, luckily, my attitude was pretty good throughout my entire career, and I never set goals that were impossible to achieve, or just hang myself if I didn't make it somewhere. So I mean, I'm perfectly happy with the way things worked out. And of course, I forgot the initial question.
What did it mean to you to be able to wrestle in every province and territory in Canada?
I rambled on. But getting back to the question, leave it to me to ramble on. For me, being able to say that I've wrestled in every province, it's not a goal that I had set out for, but eventually, 10 years after the fact that I've been wrestling, and I'm looking like, man, I've wrestled everywhere but Newfoundland. And I'm from New Brunswick, like, so close, but it's the only fucking...
It's closer than the Yukon.
Yeah, at some point, At some point, it just came to me that, man, I gotta wrestle there someday. I knew there were promotions and stuff. And never really made too much effort, but that was one thing. I think that was more of a goal to me than my goal to make it to WWE one day was back then. It was just, okay, I've gotten this far, I've got to go to Newfoundland and wrestle. So I was pretty excited when Clark initially contacted me to go work there. There was a few guys that I knew there, and just the fact that I was able to say, okay, wrestled Newfoundland's done. I've done coast to coast. Like I said earlier, every mud puddle, Indian Reserve, and valley in the country.
Thoughts on never going overseas to wrestle, Japan or the United Kingdom or down south, Puerto Rico, Mexico?
Like I said earlier, if there is one regret that I do have in wrestling, is not taking the opportunity to go to England. Japan is always a huge deal for most wrestlers, pretty much all wrestlers. And of course, given the opportunity, I would have went. I did have an opportunity in 2000, I want to say 2002, 2001, around that time. Bad News Allen had a deal with, I think it was Tokyo Joe. Anyway, he had some affiliation with Japan. And myself and Steve Rivers from Calgary were booked to go up. And then something happened between Bad News and whoever deal he was working with at the time, the promoter in Japan, fell through. And that was it for us. That was my only... I'm not sure if Steve Rivers... I mean, it's totally off topic, but I'm not sure if he went to Japan prior to that, because he's been in the business way longer than me. Anyway, but no, I never ended up in Japan. I mean, yeah, I would have liked to have gone, but it's not like England where I wish I would have gone. No, I think for some reason I've just heard so many stories from England and got to meet a couple of the guys like Frankie Sloan and James Mason. So I think that really, like, oh man, I wish I would have gone. It's in Mexico, Puerto Rico, never really had an interest for it. I'm not sure why. I mean, I think that's why some people think that I just didn't give it my all, because I didn't. But for some reason, Puerto Rico, Mexico, to me, you know, would I've liked to have gone? Yeah, sure, I would like to have gone, but at that point, especially with Puerto Rico or Mexico, if I would have gone, it wouldn't have been a money thing. What it shouldn't have been anyway. It should have been just for experience. But I just really didn't push. I didn't care to go. Like I said, I'm sure I would have enjoyed it, and obviously would have got a great deal of experience. I mean, look at Mike Hughes and look at Peter Smith and these guys. Their ability in the ring just doubled when they came back from these places. So, you know, it would have been great, but England's the only regret.
Rene Dupree recently did a shoot interview. They asked him about his first match. He said it was with you, and that you worked him almost every night on his first tour. What are your memories of those matches?
Rene Dupree. God love that kid, man. Yeah, Rene, it's funny. It's I just talked to Rene a couple days ago. It's so fucking nice to hear from him again. Yeah, Rene, when he broke in, because I was working with Grand Prix every summer, of course. And Emile told me, oh yeah, Rene, he's going to start. He's going to come, he's going to wrestle with us. I'm like, wrestle? Fuck, isn't he like 13? Oh, Jesus Christ. Fucking 6 feet tall, 210 pounds. All right. So I come down, because I'd seen him before. He was just a little kid helping set up the ring and shit. Then I show up there that year, I was like, fucking big jacked up. Anyway, yeah, we wrestled our first match together. Before the matches...
Was it your first match too? Or just
no,
or his?
He was started in, was it 98, I want to say?
Yeah, he was 14, so whenever that was.
Yeah, so I think it was 98 when he started, the year after I did.
Yeah.
And so I was living in Calgary at the time, so I drove down with Massive Damage. It was 98.
Yeah.
98, yeah. Massive Damage and I drove from out west Calgary to here in a red Ford Topaz, 2-door. Interesting. But we made it there and back, or here and back, should I say. And so we got there a couple days early, and Emile had his ring set up in the backyard. Summertime, it was nice out. So Emile had no plans on putting Rene and I on the card, working together. But Emile said, oh, you should go in there and do some stuff with him. Just because Emile wanted to brag his son, right? Mm-hmm. As he should. So I went in there and we started fucking around, Rene and I. I mean, obviously, whether it's coming from a wrestling family or not, he was a natural. He got it. And we just gelled. Went in there, just fucked around for a few minutes, and Emile said, Jesus Christ, you know something? I think I'm going to put you and Rene. Yep, you guys are fucking good in there. So he just went and booked us. And I shit you not, Rene and I talked about this a few years after the fact, probably 2000 or something. And I wish I did it throughout my whole career. I know Chris Jericho did, fucking. But I used to
His
write,
matches.
Yeah, I used to write down. I still have the book of probably my first 200 matches, or more than that, probably 500. And but anyway, I used to write everything. Who went over, where it was, what city, everything. How much I got paid. And but I was counting at the time, and Rene and I were just laughing because we had worked, well, in 98, oh my God, we must have had probably 30 matches together. And but we had counted, it was over 70, I think it was around 74 or 75 matches that we had together, and from 98 to I think it was 2000 or whatever it was. But yeah, I got to work him a lot. But I mean, he was a complete natural. And it's funny story. because it was him starting off. I mean, I was green as hell too, but you know, I had a year in the business, got to work a lot of shows in Calgary and out west. So every night that I was wrestling him, because I was wrestling every fucking night, 7 nights a week, just to teach him stuff or get him used to it, I would throw in, we'd mostly do the same match, but I was always throw in a different move every night. It's like, even I think one of the first nights, he gave him a suplex. He'd never taken a suplex. It's like me, I never took a suplex till my first match. So he gave him a suplex, boom, oh, that was cool, you know. Next night, I'd fucking give him an abdominal stretch. And I'd just call it on the fly. Wouldn't say it, just like, here's the move of the night. I'd go in and, just whatever. But I used to, just to get him to experience, you know, what this move feels like, right? Just to help him out. So yeah, it was a good run with him.
You haven't seen the DVD yet, but
No.
Renee opens up in complete openly about his drug use in the past with somas and Vicodin and steroids and cocaine, and even on Wrestling Reality, Peter Smith did steroids on camera. What are your thoughts on those guys being so open now with that stuff that years ago you would never have mentioned?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I really got to watch. I could be here for an hour talking about this. I mean, yeah, of course, years ago. I mean, years ago was years ago. It was so different. I mean, people have evolved, so to speak, in the reality of life. It sounds ridiculous, but what I'm trying to say is, like, people didn't know what they know now. You know, somebody that takes steroids nowadays, 90% of people are like, yeah, so what? Like, we've heard all this before, yeah, whatever. Where 20 years ago, like, oh my God, like, you know, unless you're the media nowadays, because steroids will kill you. That's the devil.
Yeah, they have no idea.
Anyway, please don't get me going on that one. Calm down here. Good old scapegoat steroids.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, I mean, it's just a different time, you know, and you know, with Peter Smith doing that on camera, I think that was, you know, more so just, you know, that'll give us some fucking ratings. It's a reality show, isn't it? Let's give him reality, right? So I mean, not that it was the question, but I don't see nothing wrong with it.
No.
I mean, I just think, you know, if you're going to do a reality show, make it real. And, you know, that's just part of wrestling, you know. Not saying everybody does it, but, you know, a big part, not just wrestling, just every sport out there.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, no secret anymore. And as far as Renee goes, you know, talking about, I mean, hats off to him. Last time I saw Renee was shortly after he was done with WWE, when he got released. I don't know what year that would have been.
He said it was like 2007 or 8, I think.
So I would have seen him right after he got released, within that year. Yeah, it would have been 2008, 7, because I was living in Moncton at the time. Renee called me, yeah, awesome. So we went and chatted up. At the time, he was, you know, doing the whatever drug he was, you know, he was bad into it at that time.
Yeah.
I think he had already gone to rehab.
He said he went to rehab 3 times on the on the
yeah,
DVD.
Yeah, he told me that on the phone there last week. But anyway, long story short, you want to know that, watch Renee's DVD.
Yeah.
I'm going to watch it later. But I think what he's been through, going to rehab 3 times, being into drugs, it's absolutely no surprise that he was like that, got into drugs, because Rene Dupree, for God's sakes, is not even 30 years old.
No.
He's still a kid now.
Oh, he's 4 years younger than me, I think. He's like
There you go.
27, 28.
Yeah, he's like
He's been wrestling for
mid-20s.
17 years.
And that's the thing, like, you know, he never got the chance, and I've said this for years, right till the day, like, he never got to be a kid. You know, for 13 years old, he was, I think it was 14 when he's, and it doesn't matter. You know, at 13 years old, he was put in pro wrestling with a bunch of adults, and then did that. Went to high school, As soon as he graduated, boom, contract with New York.
Yeah.
So he never got a chance to be a teenager. He never got a chance to be like everybody else got to be, because he was given that. So for him to stray that way, especially in the wrestling business at that time, because wrestling was way worse back then, 15 years ago, with the drugs and all that, where nowadays the fucking boys go back to the hotels and play video games, which I think is fantastic. But yeah, back then was a horrible time for the drug thing and all that in pro wrestling. And of course, it resulted in a lot of deaths. But I think him talking about it, telling the world, I've never been to rehab, probably should have been a few times, but I think that's healing for him. To don't hide nothing. Just this is the way it is. This is what happened, and look, I'm fucking clean now. So I think it's therapeutic for him to talk about it, to tell the world, this is what I've done. It's no secret, So he's got nothing to hide. It's all out there. It's off his chest. I think that's, for him to talk about it, is the best thing he can do.
Could you tell us the story about the time you watched yourself wrestle Billy Gunn on Heat in a bar?
Oh God, that one. That was a fucked up night. Did I not say that story on the first interview?
No.
Fuck. All right, so basically, my first TV shot with the WWF at the time, WWE, everybody knows that. Of course, most people that'll watch this will know that I did a TV taping with Billy Gunn. It was Monday Night Raw in Calgary, Alberta, at the Saddle Dome. It was for a taping of Heat or whatever. So anyway, the show was at the very end of May, last week of May, that we did the taping. And because mine was the 1 hour weekend show, the Heat, it was on the following Friday or whenever it was. Sunday,
Yeah.
whatever, yeah. So I was wrestling as much as I could, and I had a part-time job at a bar. So the week before, there I am in the Calgary Saddle Dome, packed house, 18,000 plus, with the World Wrestling Federation. I'm like, here I am. I'm like, there's Steve Austin, there's The Undertaker. Like, I'm there, and I'm wrestling fucking Billy Gunn on fucking national TV. So, obviously, needless to say, I'm at the fucking peak of my life. I'm like, wow, this is it. I've made it. Like, this is fucking crazy. The emotions going through it. I was just like, wow. Like, I went from wrestling in a fucking Indian reserve with 150 people in the middle of nowhere, and here I am now, like, as high as you can go. Like, this is it. This is the top. So I'm on a fucking high. Like, man, this is. So anyway, did the Monday in Calgary, and then we did the SmackDown the next day in Edmonton. So that was it. After that, went back to Calgary, so I was living at the time, and so like I said, I was working at the bar, the Cecil Hotel, one of the gingiest, dirtiest, fucking crack-infested bar in the Calgary. Shut down now, thank God. Thanks to Leo Burke for that job. Mon étoile. So anyway, I had a shift the weekend after I did the Raw thing, and it was actually my birthday, because my birthday is June 2nd, and I'd done the Raw show the week before, so it's my birthday, going to work, like, oh fuck, whatever. And I never even realized, I'm like, oh shit. Like, I don't know what it was, because I know my show was playing on Heat, and it was playing on another 1 hour show. And I was gonna watch it on the other show, didn't realize that Heat was on before. So I'm at the bar, and fucking Heat starts up. I'm like, because we had the big screens, of course, and I'm sitting there bartending, and I look up, and I see fucking Heat start. I'm like, and it's from Calgary, so I'm like, fuck, my match has to be on here, because I knew Jacked was the other one.
Yeah.
I
It was
knew
Jacked and Metal or whatever.
Yeah, so I knew it had to be that show, and I'm like, oh fuck. And then most of the people at the bar, obviously Leo Burks was working there for years. They all knew him. They knew that he got me there, and everybody knew I was a wrestler, all the regulars. So now everybody turns their attention to the TV because they want to see me on TV. And I'd have to say it was probably, it's really hard for me to explain. I'll tell you, the first thing that comes to mind is a total mind fuck. For a person, and in that case myself, I was there on top of the world. Everything I always wanted was right there. Here I am, I'm at fucking, this is it. Like, doesn't get any higher than this. And then a week later, I'm at a bar slinging drinks for $10 an hour, watching myself on the big screen for the World Wrestling Federation. And I'm like, it just fucked me up. Never saw it coming. I was excited to watch myself on TV. But everything just kind of, I think that tends to happen to me. Everything booms on me. I'm fine for years and years, and all of a sudden one day everything just bang. Then I fucking lose it. But yeah, it was just, I looked and everybody's, oh, there you are, fucking everybody's happy, and I'm just pissed off. I'm just not pissed off. I put up a good front with the guy, oh, you know, thing. But I was just like, this is fucked. How can you be on top of the world 1 week, and the next week you're, you know, what I felt, bottom of the fucking barrel. I'm slinging drinks to a bunch of fucking drunks, watching my, it was just, man, I can still remember watching it, and I wish I could have seen my face because it must have just dropped. I was like, probably a look of disgust on my face, where I was just like, okay, I should be extremely happy right now, but I'm like, this is fucked. Like, how can I be there? Like, just the fact that I was where I was at, working at the bar, not really happy about my job, watching that on TV, nah, it fucked with me, big time. And yeah, it was fucked. That's all I can say. Mind fucked. That's my word of the day.
Tell us about playing bartender to Leo Burke and the boys on the road.
Must be something I forgot.
Cinder told me to tell that story, or ask you that story.
Playing bartender. Cinder, you prick. Oh my God. Do you know anything about this?
I don't.
Because people have to realize there's
Yeah.
a couple years of my life that I'll never get back, hence what I was saying I should have been to rehab before. There's a couple of years that I really, a little bit fuzzy.
Well, we can come back to that one.
Yeah, because I know if I can
get
a little hint. No, remember we were here and we did, oh yeah. No, I have no idea what he's talking about.
Thoughts on Peter's new wrestling school in Moncton, and will you be going up to teach at all?
Yeah, definitely. I've already talked to Pete about it, and the next time I'm in Moncton or whatever works out, definitely going to go in there. And I think it's fantastic. I mean, even years after the fact, I still get emails all the time. If in all honesty, which is not a lot, but considering that I haven't done the school in so many years, I still get a dozen emails a month.
Right.
You know, just, I want to train. And I always send them to Mike Hughes. You know, I say, contact Mike. Chuck had the thing going for a little bit. If, you know, when Chuck had that going, I'd say, well, because most people that are contacting me are usually from Nova Scotia, Halifax area. And they can't travel or whatever. So I tell them, well, if Chuck's got something going, I send them there. And if there's nothing, you know, if Chuck doesn't have his school going, I'll say, hey, listen, you know, go see Mike. I think he's got I couldn't even tell you if he's running a school or not. But anyway, so now that Pete's got this, I think this is fantastic for the area. Because, I mean, right now there's, as far as my knowledge, there's nowhere to train. And with Peter Smith, you know you're going to get damn good training. You might get the fear of your life a few times, but you know what? If wrestling's what you want to do, and you're in the area, that's the place to go. You won't get any better training than Peter Smith, and you'll have myself coming down. I'm sure Mike Hughes will be coming down. Titus and Julian, these guys will be there. So nothing but top-notch training.
I'm not sure if you'll remember this story or not, but when you had your school, Lincoln Steen used to come out, and one time he's quoted as saying that himself and Eddie Watts were the only two people in the country that could call a match on the fly.
Oh my God. It's funny because I don't remember that actual comment coming from his mouth, but I remember the repercussions of it. When he got around to the boys on tour. Oh my fuck. Yeah. That was funny. Because me being brutally honest most times, I'd be like, I couldn't call a match on the fly. Not at the time anyway. But yeah, he got fucking ribbed so bad for that.
Yeah.
Especially, of course, Peter Smith's find this out.
Yeah.
Come on. But yeah, that was funny. I remember that. That was a good laugh. What do I think about it? That's Lincoln Steen, man. There's never a dull moment when Lincoln Steen's around. I haven't seen that little prick in so long. Fuck, I missed the little bastard. But yeah, it's Lincoln Steen, man. If you're depressed, if you're down on your luck, Lincoln Steen shows up, everything's better. He's like a drug. God love him.
This one was sent in from a fan. He wants to know what were or are Dead Reach's biggest musical influences, and what are your influences as far as a metal vocalist goes?
Wow. Didn't expect any music questions.
Yeah,
which is really
didn't think of it either. I was like,
fucking
that's
cool.
a good question.
You actually got questions?
I did. I posted a thing. There's a couple of them here.
You're like a fucking celebrity, man. You're like fucking... That's a great question. I really didn't expect that. That's awesome. So, what was the first part of the question?
What are Dead Reach's biggest musical influences?
Oh, wow. Definitely by far... we were a 5-piece band at times, but the original 4 members stuck together from 89 to 96. And the 4 of us had very, very similar musical influences. And those bands, probably top of the list, which didn't necessarily influence our music as how it turned out, but the 4 of us individually were all hugely influenced by Anthrax. Anthrax was the one band that the 4 of us just, was pretty much all our favorite bands, and just loved them. They were fantastic. But it would definitely be Anthrax, Testament, Slayer, Metallica. They've always been a huge influence. But we started at the tail end of I guess right in the middle of the thrash genre when that really kicked off. It kind of died in, I think, 92, 93. Then Nirvana came around and killed everything. Yeah, definitely Anthrax, Testament, like I said, Slayer, Metallica. Huge influence on the guitarist and drummer as Iron Maiden too. But
what were your influences as a metal
as a metal vocalist?
Metal vocalist.
My influence, number one. If you're any fan of metal, and you see, which I'm actually, I'll make the announcement here, so this will force me to actually do it. But I just discovered some old tape or an old DVD that I have at home from '93. We were doing 93, 95. We did some shows in Halifax. It was a TV show, Friday Night Rock. So I'll post some of those on YouTube. But you can clearly see my influence was Chuck Billy, A Testament. That was, as a singer, I'm not ashamed to say, I pretty much mimicked Chuck Billy. Not necessarily what I sounded like, but I had the wristbands, the same hair. I didn't play any instruments, so I had my microphone, but I always had, you took the mic stand, broke it in half, the half mic I called it. Chuck did that, still does it to this day. But yeah, Chuck Billy was definitely my biggest influence. Obviously I had other influences as well. I'm a huge music fan. But, yeah, Chuck Billy was definitely my personal biggest influence.
Another fan question. Who do you...
Fans?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
At least 3 or 4.
Nice! I was expecting maybe 1, maybe 2.
Who do you think is the best local wrestler today? And who do you think is the best wrestler in WWE today?
Today, locally, Mike Hughes, Cowboy Mike Hughes. I said it earlier. There's a lot of talent in the Maritimes when you think about it. But in my opinion, overall, yeah, definitely Mike Hughes. No questions asked.
With WWE.
WWE. Wow, that's a good question. I don't watch it like almost at all. The only time I do is when I'm really bored and it happens to be on TV. I'll watch it for a bit just to see how long it takes to disappoint me. But mind you, I got to give it credit. It's way better than it was.
It's getting there.
Yeah, it's like, in my opinion, I think CM Punk made a lot of people wrestling fans again. And that being said, I would have to go with the CM Punk.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's a lot of good talent. I mean, from what I've seen, Del Ziggler.
Yeah.
Fucking guy. It's funny, Billy Gunn.
He's a bump machine.
Oh my God.
It's insane.
Billy Gunn and I were sitting there having a fucking Twitter war one night on Monday night. It was this when we were touring with CWI. He was in his room, I was in my room. We were on Twitter watching fucking Raw. And Billy Gunn was going on about how it's like a mini me.
Yeah.
Or not me, but a mini Billy Gunn.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh fuck, I never even realized. Like, the guy is literally a fucking small version of Billy Gunn.
Yeah, he seems to be like a mix between like Kurt. He kind of looks like Kurt a little bit in the face. And
Kurt Hennig?
Yeah.
Yeah. But Billy, it was so funny because Billy Gunn's like, man, I should have so much fucking heat with that fucking guy. He fucking nicked my fucking finish. He fucking looks like me. He wrestles like me, but I can't be pissed off at him because he's too fucking good.
Yeah.
He went off and I just laughed. Yeah, I mean, I think Dolph Ziggler is definitely...
He's the future, I think.
Man, like, he's just... Yeah, he's amazing. I mean, his in-ring ability... I mean, let's face it, he's still green, really. He's only been in the business...
Well, he's been...
Lance Storm trained him, right?
I don't know, but he's been around since 2004. He was on, but not on TV. He was part of the 4th season of Tough Enough, and then he was part of the Spirit Squad.
Right.
He was the cheerleader,
Yeah, I knew
and
that.
then he came out. I don't remember what was after that, but then he came out as Dolph Ziggler and still wasn't getting pushed until he started, out of the blue, having these matches that were just like you had no choice but to pay attention.
Yeah. Like, yeah, he's I mean, CM Punk, I think, he's been around for a while, especially the...
Punk?
Well, before, a lot of people, I guess, maybe wouldn't know of CM Punk, his ROH days and stuff, but, I mean, I've known about him for a long time, never paid attention to him or nothing until he got to WWE. I knew he was a good worker and stuff, but back in the day, I was, of course, as a skinny wrestler, fucking tattooed and whatever.
Yeah, I met him last year, the year before. Yeah, in Los Angeles. He's not big.
But I mean, from what I've seen, like, and yeah, his in-ring ability is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Fantastic worker. But he's one of those guys, and I know I've said it before, like, you've got it, he just has it, but this guy really, I can't say that he's got like the Hogan effect where he's just got an aura of like, he's like can fucking walk on water, but CM Punk, when people say Steve Austin changed the business, where he brought in the badass good guy, well, CM Punk, in my opinion, changed the business recently. I mean, he changed, like, he went out there and just shot on everybody.
Yeah.
No, man, that well, as far as I know, it wasn't a work. Like, that was fucking shoot, man. Like, his back was against the wall. It's, fuck you. Like,
Yeah, the story he tells is that he came to the show that day where he cut that first promo.
Yeah.
It was like, they're going to give you the mic and you can say whatever you want. And
Yep.
he's like, no, they're not. He was like, well, what's the catch? And he was like, nope, dead air, go to it. And he was like, okay.
But yeah, but I'll tell you, yeah, CM Punk is, you know, gratefully for the good. That's so much, just for me, it made me watch wrestling again. Like when I was on that CWI tour, of course, a lot of the boys, right? You sit back, watch wrestling, have some beers, and yeah, he really made for me wrestling interesting again. Where I was like, oh, you know, I want to. Not that I watch it all the time, but you know, if I get to see CM Punk or Dolph Ziggler, I mean, these guys are.
American Dragon's good too. Brian Danielson.
Oh yeah.
Or Daniel Bryan.
Whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, oh yeah. I mean, let's face it. To get to WWE, you got to be good.
Yeah.
There are some exceptions, of course, but I happened to turn it to NXT a couple of weeks ago. Never seen it. Didn't know what the fuck it was. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, NXT. I was like, I thought that was a pretty nice setup for a
Yeah.
indie promotion. I started watching it. I was like, wow. And I'm not saying this to put a damper on new talent growing up and trying to make it, but man, there's a lot of fucking good talent out there.
Yeah.
I watched NXT and I'm thinking to myself, I'm so fucking glad I'm not competing with these guys to try to get a spot.
Because they're good.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Not all of them,
Yeah.
but the good majority, the guys they're pushing, they're good and they're fucking big.
Yeah.
A lot of them are big, and if they're not big, they're in phenomenal shape. I mean, I don't know what guy it is, fucking does all these flips. I think he's an NXT champ or whatever the fuck they are. Man, and there's, you know, there's just a lot of talent out there.
One more fan question here. How many calories did you consume in Ottawa? The person that asked me thinks they might need to commission NASA to compute the numbers.
I think it was 24,365 calories. Now, if you take the fact that I had 2 glasses of pop, that will bring it up to about 24,900 calories. Yeah, about almost 30,000.
That was sent in by Pete.
Oh, fuck. Isn't that where I got the root bear or something? Shit like that? Oh, God. Fucking Pete.
Thoughts on the Olympics getting rid?
I ate a lot of nachos that night, didn't I?
I wasn't there.
Well, you saw the fucking...
Yeah.
You know when they were showing all the nachos going down, fast forward? Man, they weren't throwing that shit out. I was fucking eating.
Thoughts on wrestling getting tossed out of the Olympics?
You know what? I've been asked that. I mean, obviously because I'm a wrestler. I mean, for me, pro wrestling and amateur wrestling are two different things. One's entertainment, one's not. It's a shoot. That being said, I certainly don't discredit amateur wrestling. I mean, I'll be man enough to admit that I don't think I could do it or could have done. I mean, that's a strenuous fucking sport. I mean, you got to be in tip-top shape to do that stuff. Why they would choose wrestling
Over ping pong?
over, yeah, like some of the events that the Olympic hosts aren't even sports. Like you said, ping pong. Like, the fuck? You know, like, okay, yeah, I'll get blown up playing ping pong, but why wrestling? I mean, it's probably the oldest
It is.
goddamn
That's the
sport
deal.
in the world.
It is. It was the first one. You know?
So, you know, what, are they all accused of being on fucking steroids too? Like, you know, you got cycling who's fucking, you know, just got his shit drugged in the mud over all that bullshit, and they're picking on wrestling for some reason. I mean, I never gave it much thought. That all falls into my, I don't really get into any gossip or bullshit. But, yeah, I mean, I just don't get it. To me, it's just another fucking political fucking stunt. I'm sure there's a reason for it. Probably has to do with money. But, you know, guarantee that it's just politics and money, man. That's just what fucks up the world.
If the WWE came calling tomorrow, would you go on the road? Would you go?
If I could get up off the couch. Well, the thing is, WWE ain't going to call me to go on the road. There's no chance of that happening. I mean, would have been years ago. Of course I would have. But yeah, no, it's. I mean, again, I forget what the question was earlier, but it's another one of those questions that I just can't answer. I mean, because it's for one thing, it's not going to happen. It's just not a real question for me.
And there was one other fan question here. Will you be going back on tour with Grand Prix this summer?
No. I think I've had a lot, actually, New Scott Shoot video, first time that I've released an answer for this question. I've had this question many times. This is where I'm saying it first. I won't be on tour with Grand Prix this summer, guaranteed. Does that mean I won't do a couple shots here and there? Absolutely not. Like that I'm completely open to. Haven't committed to nothing. Barely even talked about it, but it's been talked about, and that's it. For one thing, I am not nowhere near in any kind of physical shape to be on the road, let alone being on one show. Again, this is the first on New Scott. NewScott.com, baby. Where's my fucking t-shirt? This is ongoing for 10 years now. More than that. But yeah, I've got a few physical medical issues that have to be taken care of before I even do another match, I believe. Which, again, this is the first. I've never said nothing to nobody yet. So, like I said, I'm looking at least one surgery, if not two, before I can be not necessarily back in the game, but back to being in good enough shape to actually go out there and have a good match. Because I'm not going to go in, have a match, and just half-ass it and give everybody a shitty match. People pay money, people come to see us. I'm not going to do that to the fans. But yeah, so answer the question: no, I won't be on the tour, guaranteed.
Thoughts on the whole Chris Benoit happenings in 2007?
Man, that was really fucked up. I mean, I think anybody, and again, that whole thing to me was another fucking stunt by fucking CNN, NBC, CBC, all these fucking money-hungry media fucking corporations, and of course, managing the whole fucking thing is the fucking government shit. But it was just, to me, they took a sad situation, a sad happening, something that happened that, nobody knows what to think about. It was horrible, whichever way you look at it. And the media dared to use this again to fucking take steroids and use it as this fucking big scapegoat. And to me, that was the degrading part of everything. The way they reacted. They were more involved. They were more concerned. They had more interviews with everybody about was he on that he was on steroids because they found steroids there and he's a pro wrestler. What about the fucking families? What about, and it seems like you never heard two shits about Nancy's family or Chris's family. But I'll tell you, that fucking steroid topic will bring you a lot of fucking money now, won't it? And that's what they talk about, and that's what they do, and that's what they'll always do. But I knew Chris not well at all. Like, the only way I knew Chris was from doing a couple shows with WCW and WWE. The extent of a conversation I've had with him was, I think, one time we were in catering together, and I talked to him for about 5 minutes, just chit-chatting. But aside from that, it was just, hey, Chris, how you doing? But yeah, I mean, I'm just going to sound like a broken record. I mean, everybody else has said it. He was just such a nice, laid back, one of the boys, quiet kind of guy, kept to himself, loved and cared for his family. And then that happened. Thanks to Chris Nowinski, I think a lot of friends and fans and everybody who was associated to Chris Benoit were given at least a probable explanation of what happened, because that makes sense. Steroids doesn't make sense. But, to say that, You know, you got to think about the shit Chris Benoit did through his career.
Yeah.
I mean, he...
The top of head bunt every night? That can't be good.
Ultimately...
I don't know how it works, but it
but I mean,
can't be good.
No, but I mean, the thing is, it's like, you know, no, he's not really hitting his head. It's the trauma.
Yeah. He's still hitting the ground.
Yes. I mean, he did that every night.
Yeah.
I did that same momentum move when I did TV for Billy Gunn. Do you think I'd do that every night?
Yeah.
Fuck no.
Yeah.
That fucking killed me. I felt like somebody kicked me in the balls as hard as they could with a steel-toe boot. I mean, you're coming from that top rope onto that fucking mat, which is not fucking soft like everybody thinks it is. It just shot like this. Oh, like I said, I felt like I got kicked in the balls. I couldn't breathe. I was fucked. But the fucking match had to finish. So for Chris Benoit to go out there and do that every night, yeah, you're going to suffer fucking concussions. Whether it's a mild concussion, you do that fucking 5,000 times, you know how many fucking matches he's had, not to mention all the other shit, especially the stuff he did in Japan and stuff. Yeah. Man, nothing for him to take a bump off the top rope onto the cement.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like I said, hats off to Chris Nowinski that did the research and, you know, gave all the fans, whether you liked Chris or not, at least something to make sense. Because if not for that, you'd be like, the fuck, you know. But, you know, what he said made sense, you know. I mean, I'm hoping that the majority of people are fucking smart and fucking, you know, have enough common sense to realize that it's not steroids that kill them. I'm not saying steroids didn't have a minuscule part into it, but I mean, you know, it's like Lal Alzado. It's the same old fucking thing, you know. They drug fucking steroids through the mud because of that. Lal Alzado admitted it afterwards, like, yeah, he was on steroids, and yeah, he fucking blamed, probably because the media paid him off to fucking say steroids, because the guy was on fucking heroin, cocaine, drank every day, painkillers, but you're going to blame steroids, the medicine that heals you.
Yeah.
Come on, don't be so fucking naive.
Is there a
I'm pretty passionate about the steroid. Not that I'm pro-steroid or anything, but the fact that, again, especially the media, has everybody fooled into like steroids is like fucking crack cocaine or heroin.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I've done fucking I've done many fucking over the years, but I never abused it. I just used it.
Yeah.
You know, there's using and abusing. That's the thing.
You can abuse anything. You can abuse alcohol, pills, and
well, that's just it.
like,
Would you rather
there's
put
no
a fucking-
difference.
Yeah, but I mean, I just think it's complete nonsense, and like complete hypocrites, because all these fucking people that are giving steroids the bad name are sitting there sucking on their cigarettes or drinking alcohol. Oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
Why is it fine? Because the government says it's okay.
Yeah.
All you puppets out there that listen to your president and the media. I gotta go watch some Alex Jones.
Could you tell us a road trip story that you may have not told before, or just not told on camera before?
Did I tell any less?
I don't think so.
No. Wow. Road stories. The one that always sticks out in my head, and I'm sure it's the one that if you talk to anybody who was part of it will say that story, whether it's Flesh, whether it's fucking Peter Smith, Mike Hughes, any of these guys that were on tour with ACW in 2002. Wow. There's so many. Like Duke McIsaac and myself went to work with ACW because we were the only two from Real Action Wrestling who kind of, when they folded, we were the only two that
after it ended. Right, okay.
Start working with ACW right after. So everything we did only, it was 5 weeks left or 4 weeks. In that fucking 4 weeks, so much fucking shit went on. It was, if I was listening to the stories, if I didn't witness them, if I wasn't there, part of them, I would tell you you're full of fucking shit. It was unbelievable. Like I mean, I'm a kind of guy that always kept out of trouble all my life. Always stayed, if there was trouble, I'd go this way. It's just who I am. Never fucking fought in my life. I've been in a couple of squabbles, but, you know, I just don't get in trouble. This fucking tour, man, There's one time we were after a show, I think we're in St. John or somewhere in that area. We're all at the Irving Big Stop, having fucking, bite to eat after the show and stuff. Some of the guys were going to go out after the bars and stuff. So it would have been around 9, 10 o'clock at night, or about 10, 11 o'clock at night. We're at the Irving Big Stop. We all walk out. There was about 1, 2, 3. There was a van full. I was traveling with Flesh. There was a bunch of us, like Sin was out there, Kazarni, there's Flesh, Brimstone, fucking, where's my shirt? You know what I'm talking about. But yeah, it was so much fucking talent. But we were all walking out of the Irving, and I shit you not, as soon as we stepped foot out, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, I think it was 5 or 6 cop cars, all undercover cops, come ripping in the fucking parking lot and just slam their fucking brakes, opens the fucking doors, boom. Shotguns and fucking pistols pointed all at us. And we're like, oh my fucking God, what did we do? Okay, so we might have been a little bit loud in the restaurant, but man, we didn't fucking kill nobody, okay? So we were just like, what the fuck's going on? And Brimstone, I think it was Brimstone and another guy. The guys who were in the van. They got pulled aside. They told everybody not to move, stay where the fuck they were. And they grabbed Brimstone and another guy because they were wearing ball caps. And apparently what had happened, there were gunshots reported. And I guess there were 2 people, wherever the fuck this happened, it was close to the Irving. There was gunshots reported, and it was 2 guys with long hair and baseball hats on. Well, that described about 3/4 of the fucking roster.
Yeah.
Okay? So, anyway, Brimstone had the fucking long hair, big guy, hat on. They fucking pull him aside. I can't remember for the life of me who the other guy was. Anyway. So they pull them aside, blah, 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 what's going on, where were you? Blah, blah. And at this time, one of the cops said, okay, you guys can go back to your car, but don't fucking go anywhere. Just sit in the car and stay while they were interrogating these 2 guys in another cop car. So I just sat there and I'm like, dude, what the fuck is going on, man? But yeah, apparently there were gunshots reported. That was the description. Maybe somebody from Irving saw, 2 guys, whatever happened. That was fucked up.
That's crazy.
Yeah, never had a gun pulled on me, but I was like, whoa, that was pretty fucking scary. Yeah. But but that tour, man. I mean, there's other stories, but we'd be here forever. It was the craziest fucking 5 weeks of my life.
In closing, have anything you would like to say to your fans that have supported you for the last 16 years?
Go fuck yourselves. Just kidding.
Cut! No.
Cut! No. You know what? And again, everybody will say this. If it wasn't for the fans, there would be no us, there'd be nothing. The fans are everything. They're the ones who keep us going. I mean, if we were to show up to an arena every night and wrestle in front of nobody, well, wouldn't make sense. So, I mean, the fans are why we do this. The fans are the reason we can do this. So, I mean, hats off to everybody who's even went to wrestling once in their life just to check it out. Because, I mean, it's all about the fans. I mean, ultimately, when you think about it, we do this because of the fans. It works because of the fans. The promoters make money from everything is about the fans. So without the fans, there's nothing. But yeah, hats off and thanks to all the fans. The people that have supported me through my career, I mean, huge thanks to whoever you are. Love me or hate me, thank you anyway. Because, I mean, wrestling's a fucked up business. And it's physically and probably equal to or more so mentally fucked up and hard on a human being than probably anything else out there. But it's, take that and put it aside and keep doing it anyway, because it's it's what you guys want to see, and it's what we do. So hats off to everybody out there that followed me through my career, follows wrestling in general. It's why we do it.
Any chance you remember the Leo Burke bartending story from Cinder?
Fuck no. Not even close. I'm still trying to think about
I would
that.
have to message him later and find out.
Yeah, Jesus. No, it's we'll think about it.
Yeah.
I'll have to.
We'll do a third at some point.
We'll just do a 5-minute shoot interview.
Yeah.
Part 2 of part 2.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'd like to thank Maritime Wrestling legend Wildman Gary Williams for being here today. It was a great honor to do this interview with you, and thank you very much.
Thank you, man. So it's always a pleasure.